and more people are, and I still want to see one more year of Rodgers, but I feel like now people are turning on him like this, saying like the end's here. It's like beating a dead horse. You're like Dr. Frankenstein trying to revive like a zombie up. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're not going to reanimate once something that was great,
Right.
It's like Pet Cemetery. You buried your pet in the cemetery, and sometimes dead is better.
Yep. I just, in listening to Patrick Mahomes, who, and by the way, now Patrick Mahomes has 2 MVPs, 2 Super Bowls, has done it with a different cast of characters, loses one of his best. They redid the offensive line. They helped him out in many different ways. Yes, he's being, oh, by the way, last night was history. For the first time in the Super Bowl era, a quarterback making more than 13.5% of their team's total salary won a Super Bowl. Had never been done. Never been done in the Super Bowl era. The last quarterback making that much money, that much percentage of his team's team salary cap was Steve Young when he was playing for the 49ers. Other than that, every quarterback that had won a Super Bowl was 13.5% or less. And Steve Young was the last one to do it. And now I think Patrick Mahomes is like 18.5% of his team's total salary cap. So it can be done. You can't just blame it on the lack of money. Sometimes it's the ability to keep players, and sometimes it's the ability of a coach to be able to get through to his players and have a player buy into his coach, support him, and say, we're going to go win and we're going to do anything we can to win, rather than saying, you guys go work, I'm going to go do what I want to do, and I'll come in and be the savior. And I think Mike Clemens said it best on Friday when he said, when Rodgers says, no, that's 101, I'm level 200, it's the most condescending thing you can possibly say when you don't know the mentality of the players coming in. Rodgers considers himself 200, but how in the hell, if you don't ever talk to these guys, work with these guys, see these guys, go to dinner with these guys, sit down and talk to these guys, run through plays, run through film, do whatever it takes to be with these guys, how do you know if they're at level 200 or not? And to say that they're not is condescending. And that's why I watched that game last night. I listened to the quarterback's comments and I went, damn, those days are gone here in Green Bay. And it was kind of a punch in the face. So I want to get into that discussion today. It is good to be back, and thanks to everybody who enjoyed the broadcast out there that had something to say about it. We certainly appreciate it, and had a lot of great guests, and hopefully you enjoyed it as well. All the guests, everything we had, in case you did not know, you can find in infamy and going on throughout history, I guess, on Spotify, Apple iTunes, and also Google Podcasts. You can find them all over at the Bill Michaels page, thebillmichaels.com. You can 877-867-1670. Did you learn anything from last night's contest? Again, 877-867-1670. We are brought to you by our good friends over there at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. Once again, the proud presenter of Super Bowl and the proud presenter of the show over on Radio Row in Phoenix, Arizona. Next trip in 1 year, we will be in Las Vegas. Going to go ahead and take a quick break. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
The Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Everywhere you look, from groceries to utilities to gas, prices keep going up. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin can dramatically help lower your energy costs year-round by replacing drafty windows and doors in as little as 6 weeks. And now you can save even more by taking advantage of 0% interest for up to 48 months when you lock in your prices by February 28th. I'm Gina Della from Pella. Bring the love of Wisconsin's outdoors in through the beauty and quality craftsmanship of Pella Windows and Doors. Whether you're updating or upgrading the look and comfort of your home, Pella has extensive lines of customizable options to meet your needs and your budget, no matter the season. Replacing drafty windows and doors can dramatically lower your energy costs. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin offers some of the most energy efficient windows in the industry, designed to keep the cold outside where it belongs. Lock in your prices by February 28th and get 0% interest for up to 48 months. Visit PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
I got to be honest. I woke up this morning and I went to Quick Trip and I needed to get some gas in the car and such. And I went to Quick Trip and the temperature here was 5 degrees warmer than it was the day I got up to fly home from Phoenix. It was warmer in Wisconsin. Now, the temperature out there rises up to 75 degrees. Don't get me wrong. But sitting here yesterday at 55 degrees, I had the top down the car yesterday. Wow. This is February. Content. I'm loving it. Was loving life. Smelled some motorcycles out yesterday, which was nice to hear the roar of those engines. But that being said, it was awesome. It was an awesome day yesterday. Awesome day yesterday. 877-867-1670. So just a real quick synopsis. I watched the game yesterday. I listened to Patrick Mahomes twice, once during the week and then after the game last night. And I listened to him talk about, the rebuild, if you will, and the making of, the remaking of the Kansas City Chiefs and losing Tyreek Hill and what that meant. And, how they were there a few years ago and it didn't happen. And then getting beat by Cincinnati last year and saying, they made the decision to trade Tyreek Hill. They got some additional guys. Then they bring in Juju Smith-Schuster. They bring in Allen Lazard. They have Travis Kelce. They felt like all they needed to do was change their offense. And I'm thinking to myself, boy, this sounds familiar. And they dinked and dunked their way. And then they got downfield a couple of times and they had a scrambling quarterback. And he said, and we ran the offense and we relied on the run. And I'm like, this is all the stuff that we talked about going into the season for the Green Bay Packers. And he said, from day one, when I got these guys here and I just wanted to work with them and I was calling them and I was talking to them and we were going over stuff and plays and different things. And I'm thinking all the things that our quarterback didn't do. All the things that our quarterback said, yeah, let Cobby coach him up. That's 101. I'm 200. All the condescending things that our guy did. And not to say that it would have changed things. I don't know. But I do know one thing. If you're not working to get better and you're not working, then you're not getting better. And I saw the difference. Just saw it. Let's do this. Let's get to the phone calls. Let's go to Derek listening to us in Albany. Derek, how you doing today, man? What's going on?
Hey, Bill, good to have you back safe and sound. I make a tradition of taking the day off after the Super Bowl. My condolences to Ben. Ben, you're probably listening. Maybe you just got up. He's probably out there listening. But, looking at the game, it was an exciting game, fun to watch. I think the whole game, Bill, was the fumble that Kansas City ran in for a touchdown.
Yep.
I'm not saying that that Mahomes didn't do okay, but you look at the numbers. Eagles had 25 first downs to Kansas City's 21. Total net yards 417 to 340 for KC. The Eagles didn't rush as well as you thought they would. They only had 115 yards versus 158 passing, 302 yards versus 182. And down the line, the time of possession, 35 minutes to 24. That's significant. So the Eagles, to me, played better. They just had the fumble. And you hate to say it comes down to it. And I like what you're saying about the Rodgers thing. And I would recommend to you, Bill, and your listeners, and people in the Green Bay area may know do you remember the sports writer Ken Lass? He worked in Green Bay television.
Yeah.
Okay, he wrote a fantastic article. Please look it up. Maybe on a break you can take a quick look at it. It's on Cheesehead TV. It's called The Last Word, LASS, Revelations from the Darkness. He makes fantastic points, Bill, that really will follow up on what you said. I mean, his bullet points are, you have nothing more to prove here. It's not in your best interest to stay in Green Bay. Your best chance for glory lies somewhere else. And if you do stay, you'll have to be all in. And then there's about 10, 15 sentences below each of those. Then it says the front office wants to move on. I think publicly the front office has to put on a good face. They have to say we want him back. I've been a fan, Bill, since 1965. I've seen everything as a Packer fan, and I love Aaron Rodgers for what he's done, and I don't hate the guy as a person, but his eccentricity is alienating some people, and it's not like he's 35 or 36. He's almost 40. How many people, Bill, Brady's an outlier. How many quarterbacks are going to be great at 40 years old? Not that many. I think it may be time. If the Packers bring him back, as a Packer fan, I'll support it, but you know what? I think most of us who have been fans a long time, or those of us who are discerning as you are, it may be time. But look that up. It's called The Last Word, Revelations from the Darkness. It's fantastic, Bill.
No, I'll take a look at it. Absolutely. The Last Word, Revelations from the Darkness. Okay. Right. Appreciate the phone calls always, man. I will take a look at it without a doubt. I'll try to do it maybe during the break. And for those that are just tuning in, and I'm seeing people on the Bud Light live stream and such that are hitting me on Twitter saying what was my thought. My thought was, I agree with him. I think it was the one mistake by Jalen Hurts where he just, the ball slipped out of his hand, and that ultimately, we always talk about turnovers. Turnovers are deadly and they'll cost you, and that was the only turnover of the game. I think the penalty, it could have gone either way. I think to call that ticky-tack penalty at that particular point in time is kind of garbage in that moment. You have to know the moment you're in, and you have to see the play for what it is. And my argument has always been, did the grab, did the hold impede the runner, impede the receiver, and did it change their body? And it didn't. It was just a quick grab and a let go. You saw the little tug of a jersey, and you see that all the time. There was nothing there that was egregious. He wasn't draped around him or anything. So I do think the Eagles got hosed a little bit on that call. But ultimately, you don't want to let it come down to a call. So they have nobody to blame but themselves. And the turnover obviously hurt them. Otherwise, they're winning that game, and maybe winning that game going away. And it changes because that fumble at that point, they were driving the football pretty well. The fumble not only gave 7 points to the Chiefs, but it also took possibly 7 or at least 3 points off the board for the Eagles. So it could have been that was like a 10-point swing or minimally, or a 14-point swing. And that in essence, I 100% agree with Derek from Albany that changed the game. But as I sat there, what I take away from the game was I listened to a quarterback who was all in. I listened to a quarterback who knew things had to change and were going to change, and one of his best weapons were leaving. And they didn't talk about Tyreek Hill at all during the season. They didn't talk about how much they missed him. They didn't talk about, how they can't do certain things without him. What he did was say, we're going to reinvent ourselves. We had to change ourselves because of this. And we schemed and worked, and I sat down and worked and talked with and did everything I possibly could to get on the same page with these guys, while I listened to a quarterback here in our own backyard say they need to be on my level. And it's not words that I'm harping on. It's not because me, man. I will criticize Rodgers for play at certain times. I will criticize things that he says, but I also know that, and I've said it all along, I think he gives you the best chance to win. But I don't know so anymore. And I said at the end of this season, I said it during the postgame show right after the Lions beat the Packers. I said, if I'm Brian Gutekunst, I let him walk away, and I say, you go do what you need to do. Take some time off. We'll get through the Super Bowl. We're going to get ready for Combine. We got all that stuff coming up. You go do what you need to do. And I'm going to come and see you at some point, and we're going to sit down. And Gutekunst looks him in the eye and says, how you doing? What you do in the offseason? How it's the deprivation tank? Whatever it is. And then he looks him in the eye and says, are you in? And Rodgers says, I'd like to come back. And he says, okay. here's what I expect for you to be coming back. I expect you there at the OTAs, the mini camps. I expect you, even though it's voluntary, we all understand it. I expect you to be all in. I want for if it's 1 year or if it's 2 years, but it's $60 million worth of all in. I want what I'm getting, what I'm paying you. I want out of it. I want the effort. I want the wherewithal to lower yourself, to undignify yourself, whatever you deem this as being, to come in and work with these guys and come out of the gates firing. And if you can't do that and you don't want to do that, that's fine. That's your prerogative. You earn that right to say no. But then I earn that right to say, then we don't need you, because I want somebody who's all in. And if you're not all in, then I don't need you. You can go try to figure it out with another team. But if you take that same mentality, that same approach, the same, you coach them up, get them on my level, and then I'll come in and be, level 200. And if the guys don't get on the same page with me, well, it's their fault. It's not mine because I'm the smartest guy in the room. Well, then that's fine. Go be inadequate. Go lose playoff games somewhere else, because you can do it just as easily there as you can here. And we can lose just as easily without you as we can with you. You have not won Patrick Mahomes doing anything and everything he possibly can to win a Super Bowl is now a 2-time MVP and a 2-time Super Bowl champion. And he's been to the AFC Championship game twice now. He's won the Super Bowl in 5 years, and they've been there 3 times. He's won. He's basically, the AFC runs through him. He's kicking your ass in every category because he's got nothing but the will to win. And if you don't have that anymore and you're contemplating retirement, maybe you should just go away. Because the old adage in football, and numerous guys said this on Radio Row, that if you're thinking about retiring, retire. Because if you don't have the all-in mentality, then you cannot be all in and you cannot be at your best. And I think we saw a lot of that this season. So we'll see. We'll see if Rodgers comes back in that particular fashion. 877-867-1670. I'll get back to the phone calls when we come back to this portion of the program. Brought to you by our friends at the Water Doctors. H2, the letter O, doctors.com. Fantastic people. The Connecticut water softening system. The first thing I did when I got home was take a shower. And it was so nice, because don't get me wrong, I love Arizona, but it's hard water out there because it's piped in. We all know that. And your hair feels nasty and gritty. Your skin feels good. And it's like you could peel my skin. It was flaky. You got to always use the moisturizer and stuff at home. I don't need any of that stuff. Even in the wintertime when it's dry, don't need it. I love the Connecticut water softening system. Get a hold of our friends at the Water Doctors. H2, the letter O, doctors.com. That's H2, the letter O, doctors.com. Give my buddy John Atley a call and to see what they can do for you. They're great people over there. They'll do anything and everything they can to work with you. And even if they're not in your area, they will find somebody in your area just for you that can come and work with you as well. 262-549-7733. 262-549-7733. We're going to be back right after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute.
I tell you what, I can't wait. I got back yesterday, and a buddy of mine called and said, "Hey, we're all heading to Stenny's to watch a game. You want to go?" And it was so tempting, but I was just exhausted, and I just was like, I just would love to, but I can't. But I thought about, if we fly back early next year from Vegas, the new Stenny's right there in Pewaukee is right down the road. It's maybe 7 minutes away from my house. I can't wait. Stenny, second to National and Walker's Point, Milwaukee's best sports bar, hands down. It's like the Cheers in Milwaukee. And then there's Stenny's out on Watertown Road in Pewaukee in Lake Country that is coming soon, and they're gutting the old boomers, and they've done a fantastic. I haven't seen it since I got back, but they have done a fantastic job on rebuilding the place, and they've got a ton of plans for that location. So I cannot wait for it to open. But as they say, you should be here. Running shuttles downtown to everything from Marquette game, Bucks game, you name it, Admirals games, and then when the Brewers start back up, as pitchers and catchers are reporting. Once the Brewers games are getting it on over American Family Field, they'll be running shuttles there as well. Make it a day. Head to Stenny's, get some good food, go to the games, go back, enjoy yourself. That is Stenny's. Second to National, Walker's Point. So good stuff. Good stuff from our friends at Stenny's. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. If you want to find us, please feel free to give us a shout. Let's get back to the phone calls because I think we got some people on hold. Our buddy Gerard listening to us in Delaware. Gerard, welcome back from, what was it, Columbia? Were you down there like running coke or a mule or what?
Well, actually, if you really wanted to know, one of your guys from Wisconsin who was living in Texas, I was watching surveillance tape of this dude, 35-year-old guy, Went down there. He was jealous of his girlfriend. She was cheating on him.
Oh,
He was giving her money the whole bit. So he murdered her,
Oh,
stuffed
my
her in a
God.
suitcase, duct taped it. And while I'm sitting there watching surveillance tape of this dude lifting the suitcase up and throwing her in the dumpster at the airport in Rio Negro, Medellin.
oh my God.
So after that, he went to Panama. They picked him up in Panama, and he was trying to get, I think he was going to Montenegro, someplace where no extradition. So they picked him up, and they shipped him back to Bogota, Colombia. And now you see, in Colombia, you're guilty to proven innocent. It's opposite of here. So he's automatically 50 years.
Oh my
Automatic.
God.
So he's 35 years old. You could see it online if you looked it up. And look, I got a little advice for these guys going down there for drugs and picking up girls and all this. Stay here. Those girls are way smarter than you.
Yeah.
They liars, cheaters. Listen, just stay in your own backyard. You have no idea what's going on.
Wow. Well, there's a little bit of a lesson on a Monday morning after Super Bowl. Holy crap. Okay. Well, glad you're back.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. But anyway, having said that, you're absolutely right, and I'm glad you took it up another notch with Rodgers. And look, I've been saying this all along. Look at the maturity of Mahomes compared to Rodgers, like you said. Look at the maturity of the coach, Andy Reid, compared to our coach.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the big difference. And if people don't get it, like you said, he's not into it, Rodgers. He hasn't been into it. He has this different mentality. He's not a gun-ho type of guy that Brady was, and not even Mahomes. Yeah, Mahomes, how emotional, how tough, how this, how that. Rodgers isn't like this. He's not like this. He's not the one to rally his team. He's not. He's not. Could you imagine being a teammate of this guy and hearing this now? He doesn't even keep this stuff to himself. It's embarrassing what he's doing. You know what I mean? To everybody out there. I don't want to hear about this. Groundhog Day with him sticking his head, where,
Right.
or whatever. I don't want to hear it. Be a quarterback. And I just want to follow this up by, look, I don't listen to this guy normally, but I saw a podcast with Cowherd, and he was saying that the Packers can get a haul for him. He's talking, now, he's saying 2 number ones, a number 2, a 4, and Waller from the Raiders. This is what he's saying. He's saying that, and even the Jets, I was reading about the Jets when I came back. They could get a haul for this guy. If the Packers don't move him, either if they do move him and he retires, so be it. But if they don't move him, they're gonna set this franchise back even further than what it's gonna be. They have to get this booty that they can for him now.
It's
and they have to do it.
Logically, I appreciate the phone calls always, Gerard. I'm glad you're back safe, man. Thanks for the call. Logically, it makes sense. The emotional side is still something that I think falls into play. I think there's more and more people in Green Bay that are thinking more logically, but ultimately, I think they also want to work with Rodgers. And if Rodgers really wants to come back and wants to be all in, then I think that they would more than consider that. I think they always actually do that. And while it seemed like, and I thought this was interesting, it seemed like everybody we talked to that's in the business, whether it's a former player, a current player, or somebody that was in the front office. Dimitroff was fantastic to have on the program and to talk with him for a little bit off the air. He said it's tough because you know that you have this certain ability with a certain guy that when he turns it on, there isn't anybody better. And if he commits to turning it on, then you really got to think about taking another shot with Rodgers. It's not easy as a general manager just to cast off a talented guy that you know has been there, done that, for what you don't know as far as the future. So I understand all of that. We had a great conversation at the Cigars with the Stars with Eric Dickerson, who said, and I asked him, I said, what would you do? He said, first of all, I'm not leaving $60 million on the table. And he said, secondly, he said, I want to go, if I'm a player, I want to go the best chance that gives me to win. And if it's not the Packers, then I got to go somewhere else. I want to end my career on a win, on a high note. So, but he also said, do I want to go, if I'm Rodgers, with a good team, but to face a lot of other good teams, especially in your own division, because if Tua comes back, you're going to have if you go to the Jets, if you're going to go to Tua, or if you're going to go to that division, you got Tua to contend with. You obviously have what's going on up in New England, and they're finally hiring themselves a real offensive coordinator. Do you want to deal with the Buffalo Bills in that division? And you might not even be the best quarterback in your own division at that point. So you got to have a team around you. So if you go in that particular sense, do you go there? You know, and then try to also compete. Oh, by the way, you still have Joe Burrow. You still have Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. You still have a young and up and coming Justin Herbert. You know, they're trying. I mean, obviously Tennessee's a good team. Do they pick up some pieces to be able to go take that up a notch? Do you go with them, or do you go in the NFC where really you're going up against Jalen Hurts? Arizona has improved that they can win, and they fired their head coach, and Cliff Kingsbury's gone, and Kyler Murray, you don't know what you're going to get. Atlanta's still looking for a quarterback. Carolina, you don't know what you're going to get there. Justin Fields is good in Chicago, but Chicago's not really ready to take off yet. Dallas is Dallas. Detroit's an up-and-comer, but you should be able to beat Detroit, once you put a few pieces around you. Matthew Stafford's coming back, but that team's been kind of a train wreck. Minnesota's proven that they're a paper champion. New York's good, but they're not great. San Francisco, who knows who their quarterback's going to be. You really don't have a lot of, really stiff high-end competition in the NFC. Why would you not say, let's adjust my cap number. Let's bring this thing down, give you some ability to go out and hire some new guys, bring in some new guys, find me a couple of pieces, maybe via the draft or what have you, and let's accentuate what we have with a free agent or two and run it back. So there's two sides to this. And if you're the Packers, you're thinking, I'm going to get what I can because I've got Jordan Love now in a conference that's not quarterback heavy. I should be okay. On the other hand, if Rodgers is wanting to come back and he may say, let me run it back in the NFC because I think we can do this. There isn't a lot of high-end stiff competition. We're not that far away. Then maybe that can be done. There's that pool. So it's tough. But I've said today when I started the show, I look at what Patrick Mahomes says and I listen to it and I think about the commitment. I think about the relationship he has with Andy Reid. I think about that working camaraderie. I think about how they said, we can't do it the old way anymore. We have to make a shift. And they did. And he's the guy that initiated that. He's the guy that said, I'm going to work with these guys. I'm going to work with MVS. I'm going to work with Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm going to work with the running backs. I'm going to work with the linemen. I'm going to go in and do anything and everything I can to get us all on the same page as a family and start getting each other's backs to be the best. And we don't hear that. So again, if you want to run it back and Rodgers is committed and he says, look, I'm coming back. I'm 100%. I'm all in. I will see you there in a few weeks. I'm going to start my training. Let's get this thing on. I'm going to work on my legs. Hell yeah, let's go. Then it's understandable. Then you take that shot. But if he's of the same wishy-washy, people are beneath me perception, and well, then kiss my ass. Get out of here. If you're not committed to winning, then what are you? You're nothing more than a monetary bone acre. We'll take our beating for 1 year. We'll move on from you, and then we'll be done with it. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
One of the worst things that you can hear, you have cancer. The worst is when you hear the words, your child has cancer. When a child is diagnosed with cancer, it changes their world. Sometimes they can't even do things that they really love, like playing soccer, riding a bike, going to prom, attending school. Children with cancer spend a lot of time away from others. I'm in the hospital, treatments, tired, nauseous, and they feel isolated. That's where Special Spaces Wisconsin steps in. They provide these children with a special space where they can not only sleep, but they can play, they can heal, they can spend time away from the challenges of their illness. It's a customized bedroom designed just for them. How about a princess castle or a pirate ship or a sports-themed bedroom? They transform that child's existing bedroom into a place that only he or she can imagine, a place for them just to be a kid. This effort is done with teams of dedicated volunteers and sponsors, just like our friends from Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin and all the community partners. If you'd like to find out more or to donate, go to specialspaces.org. That is specialspaces.org.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Hearts of fire, streets of stone, modern warriors, satellite horses of chrome, taste the wild.
Program, glad to have you. Going to hear a little bit later on in the program. Our guy Mike Clemens got a lot. He was at the game last night. Got a lot from both sides, as a matter of fact, Kansas City and in Philadelphia. So we'll hear some of the sound coming out of State Farm Stadium last night as Mike was there on site. We had a great time, by the way, and thanks so much to everybody that chimed in all week long, whether it was our coverage from opening night. And we posted a ton. I tried to take a lot of pictures just to give you a feel for what it was like. I tried to take a lot of pictures, some videos, some Instagram stuff for people that followed the Bill Michaels Show on Instagram, for people that followed us on YouTube, all that stuff. We tried to, do as much as we could to give you a lot of sense of what the week is like. So if you didn't get a chance to see it, it's Facebook, it's Instagram. I didn't post a ton of pictures over on Twitter, but there are a few there. I think Mike posted some as well. I'm getting a lot of people that from my tweet last night regarding halftime that are reacting to that. I'll say this. Look, Rihanna's got good music. There's a few songs I could do without, and the over and over and over again recital of the word Ella, Ella, Ella in the Umbrella song, I could do without. But I thought that was one of the weakest halftime shows ever. There was nothing to it. It was one woman singing and a bunch of white-clad dancers. That was it. There was no collaboration. There was no musicians. There was no nothing. I mean, it was just as boring could get. And the only thing they did was make it visually enticing by putting her on a floating stage. Other than the fact that, it's been confirmed that, yes, she's pregnant. And that was her first appearance pregnant. Other than that, there was nothing compelling about it. And I see people just praising it. Oh, my God, she rocked it. No, she didn't rock it. There was no rock there. There was nothing energizing there. There was not. You take away the dancers and there's absolutely positively nothing to it. It was horrible. So for those that say it was some kind of great thing, what was great? And I asked people what was great about it, and nobody says anything. Well, she's got great music. I've said that. She's got great music. But beyond that, there was no show there. There was no showmanship there. There was just a bunch of people dancing in white. Other than that, what was unique about it? You know, I remember back when the Packers played and they had the Black Eyed Peas, and then Slash came out and they were popping out of boxes, and people are killing that. It was terrible. It was awful. You know, that was a lot better than what we witnessed last night. So I don't want to really go too deep into the whole halftime thing, but that was crap. It was garbage last night. There was nothing to it. So, and whether she was lip syncing or not, I really don't care, and I don't get into that. But I thought Chris Stapleton rocked it when it came to the national anthem. But it's the national anthem. You know, I mean, there's renditions. Some are good, some are bad, some are average, some are, you know, nothing memorable. I thought he did a great job. I thought for the music compilation they put together for Rihanna, they did a great job. But it's called halftime show. There was no show there. There was nothing. It was, am I missing something here, Ebo? Did you see something that I didn't, or did you like it?
I mean, I thought it was okay. Like, it was, to me, it was entertaining and I guess good. It didn't wow me or blow me away. Like, I like Rihanna and it was all her bangers, and it reminded me of like certain moments in my like early 20s of partying and, you know, clubbing and stuff. So it was like nostalgic that way. But like the performance itself was, it didn't wow me or nothing.
Right.
Like
there was nothing to write home about.
It was good. I thought it was good.
I think about Prince singing Purple Rain in the Rain. I think about U2 right after 9/11 when the sheet dropped from the ceiling and all the names of the victims were flying up behind him and they're rocking back and forth on the stage. I think of even the Stones. I think of, you know, the Who was better, even though the Who were fat and old, and every time Daltrey was swinging his arm around, his gut was falling out. I think of all that stuff, the good and the bad and the ugly and everything, and there was nothing about that. I kept waiting for something. When you're sitting there,
like memorable, right?
Yes.
Like something that like sticks up in your memory. Like, wow, that's memorable. It was just, you know, it was just a good performance.
It was just a decent. I mean, even last year, I know last year when they did the the old hip hop, brought back all the hip hop stars last year in LA. That was really good.
50 Cent was hanging out upside down doing crunches.
Right.
Like, that was hilarious.
I was loving it. It just, you know, there was something to it that you could latch on to. This was. Okay, we got her on a floating stage. Maybe we're not moving her around a lot because she's pregnant or something. I have no idea, but you know, it was, and I give her credit for doing it, but there was like, nothing memorable there. But
there was one shot at the end I thought was cool when like she went up really high. Then like, you know, I think it was a drone. It kept panning out.
Yeah, and
you saw like everyone below her. Then the fireworks going up at the end. I mean, that was cool, but it's nothing that's gonna like not gonna like remember it.
Yeah, there was nothing there that made me go, wow, that was great. That was it. Even if I was in the stadium, I thought to myself, if I was there, because I remember being there in the stadium for the Packers and watching Slash pop out of the box and the Black Eyed Peas and all the stuff that they were doing and all the different dancers and the lighted boxes, and they were floating people up and down from the ceiling back then. And I'm thinking, this is really cool to be here, but I know visually at home it was bad. And last night, that was nowhere near. And then nobody needs to see a crotch grab from a pregnant woman to where she then licks her fingers. I'm just saying. But it was like, wow, okay. We don't need that, man. You know, I'd rather see, you know what I'd rather see? Give me 4 or 5 of the best collegiate bands in the country doing stuff. You know what I mean? Give me Southern. Give me from Georgia Southern. Give me
that sod would have been turned up.
All right. Give me Georgia Southern. Give me USC. Give me Wisconsin. Give me Ohio State. Give me those bands. You got a little bit of everything. You got the West Coast. You got the Midwest, Big Ten, better bands. Then you got the Southern. You got all of that. Grambling. You got to give me that. And go out and just kick ass with your drum lines and get people fired up. That's a show. You know, floating from a platform with just a bunch of synchronized dancers around you. I don't know. There was nothing there. I like the Rocket Man. What was it? Super Bowl 1 or 2 when a dude came in on a jetpack? Give me that. Give me a dude in a jetpack, for God's sakes. All right, 1 hour down. We got 3 more yet to go. Hang in there. A whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show. It's all coming up next.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Green Bay's quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, is expected to come to a decision on his playing future soon. But if that decision is to keep playing football and he wants to do it somewhere else, the Packers are reportedly now open to facilitating that. The NFL Network reported yesterday morning that team management is respecting Rodgers' decision-making process and haven't set a deadline for him to tell him his plans. But unlike the last two off seasons when the Packers wouldn't even consider talking with other teams, they're now open to doing so about a potential trade. If Rodgers wants to stay, Green Bay will welcome him back. If he decides to play elsewhere, there is expected to be no shortage of teams interested, including Las Vegas and the New York Jets. Wisconsin basketball currently sits 10th in the Big Ten and took a huge blow to their tournament resume on Saturday, which wasn't that great to begin with, by losing to Nebraska. Currently sitting 6-8 in conference play, the Badgers will welcome in the Michigan Wolverines to the Kohl Center tomorrow for Valentine's Day at an 8 o'clock tip.
You're worth so much more. Have you ever had the choice to accumulate wealth or go into debt? Let's play Would You Rather. Would you rather have $190,000 in total compensation or be $29,000 in debt? That's the choice between paying for a bachelor's degree that might not even land you a job or an apprenticeship with Liuna that will lead to job security, a pension, stability, and a lifetime of great wages. You're worth so much more. Go to liunawisconsin.org/join to learn how to accumulate wealth instead of debt.
The Milwaukee Bucks, who currently have traded for Jay Crowder, also own the longest winning streak in the NBA, sitting at 10 in a row. We'll put that to test tomorrow night as they welcome in the Boston Celtics, who sit first place in the Eastern Conference, to the Pfizer Forum for a 6:30 tip. For the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network, I'm Ebo.
Hour number 2 of the Bill Michaels Show, and we are glad you're with us. Good to have you today, the Bill Michaels Show. Brought to you by our good friends over there at Quick Trip. Like I said, I was over at Quick Trip earlier today, and I'll tell you what, you don't realize what you have until you don't have it. Holy mackerel. I love Quick Trip. Stopping in this morning and just seeing familiar faces and getting a car wash, getting my car cleaned up from all the salt and muck that was left on it at the airport. And I filled up and I grabbed a couple of 5-hour energies, a couple of Red Bulls. I grabbed a big thing of water and just good to get. I was kind of like, oh, you're home again, that type of thing. So it was good to go to Quick Trip and get over there and just kind of reacclimate, so to speak. 877-867-1670. If you want to hit us up, do it. Again, you can find us via the phone number, Twitter at Bill_Michaels, at Bill_Michaels. You can find us there. Ben Kenny off today, Ebo filling in along with Nelson as well. But Ben, I was texting a little bit back and forth with him last night. Once it got close, I just kind of left him alone. And then once the Eagles had not landed, we'll say, I just didn't really say much after that. I can only imagine. But I will say this. I texted Ben right after the Eagles got up, and I thought, okay, this is what we've been thinking about. And that this offensive and defensive line of the Eagles was just kind of taking charge, even though they didn't put a ton of pressure on Mahomes. I thought, okay, they're getting after it a little bit. Here we go. And I said, how's it there? And he said, the entire city of Philadelphia is intoxicated. So that was kind of the last go back and forth that I had with him. So I thought, okay, I'm going to let him drink in peace. But I would only assume, Ben will be back tomorrow, by the way, but I would only assume he is somewhere, either at a bar or a church in mourning at this point, for sure. 877-867-1670. If you're just tuning in and maybe you're just joining us on the network, whether it's in Eau Claire or La Crosse, if you're hitting us up in Wausau, hitting us up in Marshfield, whatever it happens to be, my thought on this was watching Patrick Mahomes last night, listening to him after the game speak, and then talk about the process of going from losing Tyreek Hill and getting on the same page with the new guys, working hard to get on page with the rookies, trying to work with everybody top to bottom, dedicating to the season, dedicating to getting back, the bad feeling and the bad taste in their mouth after getting knocked off in the AFC Championship game. him and Travis Kelce getting together, the desire to come back and be back in a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl and kind of add to Andy Reid's legacy, their own legacy. I listened to that and I thought, my God, how far away mentally is that from where we sit with the quarterback in Green Bay, who is, I would assume at this point, coming out of the deprivation chamber or whatever he was specifically in. But just now, he could turn it all around and say, hey, I found myself. I'm ready to go. I want to work on my legs. I want to get stronger. I want to get better. I want to work with the young guys. I think there's some solid core here. I know we got to trim some fat. I know a couple of positions we got to bring in. Let's do this. I'm ready to work. I'm ready to get in there with everybody. If that is stated, I'm all in. I'm all in. I would not throw Aaron Rodgers out the door. But if there is even the hint that I am not all in, but yet I'm going to make this amount of money, it's like, you know what? No, we can lose just as easy without you as we can with you. And we can start that monetary rebuild, not necessarily team rebuild, but the monetary rebuild faster once you're out the door. And we don't need to go through this cat and mouse anymore. It's time. So that punched me in the face more than anything. Any lesson I learned from the game last night, the obvious is if you turn the ball over, you're going to lose the game. And that's what, Jalen Hurts did, and they lost the game. But the moment that I listened to Patrick Mahomes as the leader of that team talk about the wherewithal to want to get back and to do anything and everything he could to get back to this point and to be all in, basically, versus what we've heard here in Green Bay, I was kind of like, oh, okay. I can see the difference. My eyes are now wider, and I think just it's Jordan else that on and cut your loss if you need to go in that direction. 877-867-1670. Hit us up because we'd love to get your thoughts on this. 877-867-1670. And if that is, I guess, what did you learn last night watching that football game? Then I'll say this. Randy, who hits me up over on Twitter, says it's the coach and player relationship as well. Andy Reid has the respect of the entire team. They're gunning for him on his behalf rather than the head coach trying to kiss the ass of the quarterback to make him happy. Everybody's on the same page. That's the difference. Taylor says, Bill, I realized today going to be a lot of Super Bowl NFL, but an interesting event about to happen this week that's going to impact and watch the Brewers and the Bucks, Bally Sports, and their bankruptcy trial. It was interesting because we had Bally Sports right next to us. We had Bally Sports right next to us in Arizona. If you saw on Radio Row, they were right there. I mean, they were directly next to us. And we did mention it a little bit. Now, the people on the ground don't really know a whole lot, but they've just basically been told it's operate as usual. There's nothing that's going to change. They're just realigning some of their bills. They paid a ton of money to get every sports network that was basically, Fox, to buy all of them. They're now trying to financially restructure. They got in over their head, and now they just need a little bit of help and blah, blah, blah. So we'll see. But I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. I know that I know that many of you fans aren't happy with the way Bally Sports has kind of handled things, and I know that viewership is down. I know that they've been asking a lot of money for, at least in this particular market, a lot of money for advertising and such. That when you ask a lot and then you shrink your receivership for those that are going to see it, it's very hard to justify that. I've had numerous business owners that I know in large businesses that have told me, yeah, that's not worth the package anymore, by the way, the Brewers really didn't do much to better themselves in the offseason. Do we expect some kind of a playoff push? Well, maybe you catch lightning in a bottle, but it's not like you're sitting there with a lot of enticing pieces, and the certainty and unknown, so to speak, the unknown certainty of Christian Yelich still has people kind of scratching their heads. So what is there to specifically latch onto? Less viewership, higher rates, same team, the unlikelihood that they're going to get to the postseason, and no new pieces that really inspire additional fan base and change. All of that equals, I'll pass. Talk to you later. So we'll see. That's just in our area now. I'm not saying that's nationally, but that's just in our area. But it is, it's out there. That's kind of one of the perceptions that are out there. This one's from AQ, who says, watching the tape from last night, I see more and more guys slipping in this game than anyone that I've ever watched. I'm only in the second quarter, biggest stage in the NFL, missed the mark big time, Super Bowl. I saw some people say it's a total embarrassment. It's awful. The NFL didn't know what they were doing. They screwed it up. Their sod expert is a joke, and on and on and on and on. I will say this. There were some people slipping. It's a different type of grass. It's a grass that is used mainly in golf. It's a very tight woven grass, and because it is so tight, it doesn't allow for a lot of dig depth when it comes to cleats. You have to wear longer cleats. You have to wear a different type of cleat rather than just the round cleat. So I understand that. So, but I'll say this: Arizona has always been an area where the field is chunked up. And it's always been an area where it has some slippage because of the moisture content. They send that field outside to get sunlight and to grow. They water the hell out of it. It holds water, which makes it a little bit slick, but it also allows it to grow better. The problem is that the roots don't grow deep. They don't hold together deep. It's a tight woven grass. It's almost like playing on a fairway. But from what I understand from players that have played on it, it's always been something that's slipped and chunked up. So, I'm not going to say it's the field's fault or the NFL's fault. It's just always been that field. It's always been that way just because. So you didn't see a ton of Kansas City Chiefs slipping. It was a lot of the Philadelphia Eagles slipping because they came out with the wrong cleats on. To me, that was it. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Baniello says, why don't they just play it in turf stadiums only? Well, turf has its downfalls too, because, depending on the type of turf you get, players complain about turf, about being, more injury proven to play on the other turf. Now I know that there's like 3 different types of turf that are out there. And the one in Detroit has been notorious for injuries, so you don't want to go with that. And the turf that they have in Minnesota is a little bit different, and the turf that they have at AT&T Stadium is even different. But I personally, I think guys prefer to play on grass. They just prefer to have a solid footing. And when you paint it now, the other thing that's Arizona is notorious for painting their grass to keep it all this beautiful green color consistently. So when you do paint the grass, it does slick it up. The grass loses its little bit of roughness, I guess, for lack of a better term. And when you paint it, and they had huge logos on the field last night, but they do paint it green. So when you put all that paint on there, because you noticed it on the uniforms, they did paint. It was green paint. That wasn't just grass stains. That was green paint. So when they paint that field and then put logos on it, and you've got a couple of coats of paint, and not to mention it's already a slick surface, that's a recipe for disaster. But you saw the Chiefs last night. They navigated that turf pretty well. So look, there's a lot of things that people are going to look at and blame. I just look at it as, the Chiefs won the game. 1 turnover cost you. That had nothing to do with the turf. The call was ticky-tack at the end of the game. I agree with that. But had you not turned the ball over, it's a completely different scenario late in the ball game. It's just that simple. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Find us. We'd love to hear from you. Let's go to our buddy Mike listening to us down in Whitewater. Michael, how you been, pal?
I'm good, Billy. Welcome back. Enjoyed the shows last week.
Hey, you got a new head coach at Whitewater, too.
Yeah, we did. He played here.
Yes, he did.
He's the defensive guy. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. Somebody mentioned it to me that the guy that was at North Central went to North Dakota or South Dakota. They thought he might be in the running, but I'm not sure. That was the one that beat us in the championship or semi. But anyways, I got a statement for you when we were talking about the officiating. I think it was Mike Pereira who's on the broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
He did an article that said that the refs and officials are under just as much pressure to not make a bad call And when they showed the interference, the holding,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't show it from the front, and the two announcers are going, well, that's ticky-tacky, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And Pereira says, well, wait a minute, let's see it from the front part. Go back a little further, and it showed a hold, but I agree with you and poor Ben that that one, like you said, shouldn't have been called.
And nobody
Not
really
at that
brought
time
up
of
the fact that the ball was almost uncatchable anyway. Nobody even talked about that.
Yeah, that's the next thing I was going to say. I mean, that was so far in the back corner of the end zone that there was no way, holding or not, where he was going to get to that ball at all.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But it's good to have you back. I'm going to see Gino on Friday.
Oh, awesome. Good stuff. Yeah, we'll be downtown, but we got an event to go to. I'd love to go over and say hi, but we got a charity event to attend. But, tell Gino we said hi because I'll get down there real soon, okay?
I will do that. Thanks for taking my call. Like I said, great listening to your show and the friendship, buddy.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon. That's our buddy Mike in Whitewater joining us for a couple of seconds. So, yeah, Whitewater got a new head coach. So we haven't had that head coach on the air yet. We got to get him. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but I was doing a little reading when I was out in Arizona and kind of reading up a little bit. But, yeah, he's a former player and knows Whitewater and the winning system and such pretty well. So I think played for Lance Leipold, if I'm not mistaken, years gone by. So knows what it's like to be in a championship pedigree. So we'll focus on that when we get him on here at some point. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. If you want to give us a shout, by all means. Chuck says you're only one of the people that I've heard mention the fumble by Hurts. Too many people are saying that it's the refs that caused the loss because of the call. It was the correct call by the book, but probably shouldn't have been called at that time. 100%. 100%. Dennis says ball being uncatchable means nothing when the defensive holding. It only matters on pass interference. No, I understand that, but still, he looked as if he threw the ball up just to throw it up. And the defensive holding is different than a pass interference. I completely agree, but I thought it was a ticky-tack call. Now, by the book, absolutely, you can make an argument either way. But at that moment in the time, and he did not change the direction of his body. He didn't impede him. He didn't slow him down. None of that. And the fact that was not touched upon, I guess, that was not explained by Mike Pereira or anybody else, from what I understand, was something that was pertinent, because usually in a holding call, what they're looking for is not only the grab, but the impediment. The ability not to be able to make your move, not to make a football move, to go after the football. And there wasn't any of that there. There was just he threw his arm up when he felt a little tug, and then it was immediately released. He never really got slowed down. He was never not allowed to go for the ball. There was none of that, other than just the fact that they both were playing arm grab when he made his cut to break back to the outside. Other than that, there was nothing egregious there that I saw. So I understand it, but I thought it was a bad call at a bad time. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Find us. We'd love to have you. Hey, our friends over there at the Milwaukee Admirals continue to play some pretty solid hockey. If you haven't checked them out, go to MilwaukeeAdmirals.com, whether for single game tickets or if you want group tickets, some of the post-game concerts they have coming up, and they are efforting towards a Calder Cup playoff run. So get your tickets now. Go to MilwaukeeAdmirals.com. That's MilwaukeeAdmirals.com.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Everywhere you look, from groceries to utilities to gas, prices keep going up. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin can dramatically help lower your energy costs year-round by replacing drafty windows and doors in as little as 6 weeks. And now you can save even more by taking advantage of 0% interest for up to 48 months when you lock in your prices by February 28th. I'm Gina Della from Pella. Bring the love of Wisconsin's outdoors in through the beauty and quality craftsmanship of Pella Windows and Doors. Whether you're updating or upgrading the look and comfort of your home, Pella has extensive lines of customizable options to meet your needs and your budget, no matter the season. Replacing drafty windows and doors can dramatically lower your energy costs. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin offers some of the most energy efficient windows in the industry, designed to keep the cold outside where it belongs. Lock in your prices by February 28th and get 0% interest for up to 48 months. Visit PellaWI.com.
Restrictions apply.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Good to have you. The Bill Michaels Show. We continue on. I want to tell you real quick. Yesterday, I ran into a friend of a friend, and Kristen has recently started a business, and we were introduced to a product, and we're told, it's kind of one of those things where you think, God, is it one of these pyramid schemes where you got to recruit people and they have to recruit people, and it's like, crap, because we get approached with this kind of stuff all the time. The long story short of it is that, first of all, the product is absolutely amazing, and I'm a big believer in it. And that's something that, later on down the road, maybe I'll talk about. But Gina Della from Pella is involved in this very much wholeheartedly. And she was the one that introduced Kristen to it. So Kristen was talking to some people, and she had mentioned that, hey, this is a lot of strong women and business women that are involved in this, and mentioned her name. And the gentleman and his wife were sitting there, and he went, and he had this just horrible experience with Pella. And I said, well, wait a minute. He starts telling me, I said, wait a minute. And I tell you this, I don't normally just blow smoke up your ass for all the good. I want to tell you about the bad here. So he starts to tell me the story. I said, wait a minute. Did you talk to Gina about this? And he said, no, they, whatever happened, it was never brought to her attention. And I said, wait a minute. I said, I know Gina personally. She just doesn't sleep if something's wrong like this. It affects her. So I said, give me a real quick synopsis that I can pen down in 180 characters. So he told me, and I sent Gina a text message. I said, hey, Gina, I know we're going to be meeting soon, but I wanted to let you know about this particular person who's had a bad experience and is now recommending different companies because he didn't want to deal with Pella anymore. And this is Super Bowl Sunday, remind you. Gina texts me back and says, please, first of all, extend my apologies. I want to get in touch with this person. So, and I said, okay. I said, pretty much in Gina fashion. That's what she's going to do. Then about an hour later, now we're almost to halftime of the game. About an hour later, I get a text, this long text. She got into now this is Super Bowl Sunday. She gets into the computer system. She finds the ticket for this particular group, for these people, finds out that it's not their installers. It was somebody else that did the job. Because the word Pella's on it, they're the ones that kind of took the blame, but it was from some other entity. So she gets a hold of, she's waking people up, getting people out of Super Bowl parties, whatever it takes to gather all the information, called them first thing this morning. Now, this took like a year and a half to resolve all these issues. She had no idea. So she sends me this information to let me know she's on it, gets a hold of these people first thing this morning, and they're all going to meet now back at their house because she just wants to do anything and everything she can to make it right, even though it's really not her responsibility. That's the kind of people at Pella Windows and Doors. If you got a problem, they want to help. It's not just about getting windows and getting doors and such in your home and making your home more economical and beautiful and valuable and all that kind of crap, which is all valid. But it's making sure that when you walk away from that experience with your new windows and doors and such, that you're like me, you walk around to people and go, these things are fantastic. And the whole experience was awesome. It's just incredible. That's the type of people you're dealing with. So I've said all along, man, if you get a positive story or a negative story, we want to hear about it because I don't want to endorse somebody that's a bad client. And most of these people are my friends and I know them. They want to take care of these issues if there's a problem. And she was all over it. On Super Bowl Sunday, she's getting her salespeople on the phone and gathering them and all this kind of stuff to try to make this right for these people because it just bothers her so much. That's the type of people you want to deal with. That's our friends at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Go to PellaWI.com. That is PellaWI.com or call them 855-PELLA-WI. That's 855-PELLA-WI. Mike hits me up and he says, hey, Unit, I 100% agree about the Aaron Rodgers take. If he's not all in, then there's no sense in hanging on to him because we're going to repeat what happened last year. However, if he is all in, I believe he does give us the best chance to win. No matter what other people say, what they think they can get for him, it's not until a team actually makes an offer and he says, yes, I'll play for you for numerous years, 2 or more, to make it a valuable trade. Otherwise, you're going to get a number one, and that's about it. Yeah, which I would agree with. I don't think I don't think that you're sitting there looking at 3 or 4 or 5 ones or anything like that. What some people are, hey, you're going to get 2 1s and a 2, and you're going to get conditional players down the road if he plays more. I don't. Maybe if you get 2 teams to get into it only takes 2 teams to get into a bidding war, right? Maybe you do. But I think it's all dependent upon Rodgers. Everybody wants to say the Packers hold the cards in this. They really don't. Every agent will tell you, yeah, they have the ability to trade him away. But one, unless he says he's coming back for sure and he's going to play, you don't have the ability to trade him away. 2, unless he says he's going to play for more than a year or 2, you only take what you can get for 1 year with conditionals after that. And 3, he's coming off of somewhat of a down year. He's going to give some other team like the Jets or like the Raiders hope. But, if they really believe he's the key piece, well, maybe, you get a little bit extra for him. But it's a lot of this is up to Rodgers. And I said, look out between this week and next. This is it. This is when you're going to find out. We kind of thought, I thought today would be the day. I thought today would be the day that he calls the Packers. If he emerges and it's after the Super Bowl, he comes out of the deprivation and he says, okay, I really want to run this back. I'm ready to go. Today's the day that he's calling Brian Gutekunst, because if he's going to go on Pat McAfee, and I don't know if he is or isn't, but if he goes on McAfee tomorrow, he's not going to make an announcement on McAfee without letting the Packers know what he's going to do. So today would be the day, or tomorrow morning, right? One of the two. Otherwise, I would think that word will break late this week or over the weekend, and then all the speculation will begin. He'll be the only thing really going in the news cycle until Tuesday, when he talks on McAfee and says, yeah, this is what I decided. This is how I got to my decision, and this is what I want to do. But we are now in the hovering period of he's like Puxatawny Phil. He's come out. We assume he has. He's come out of the deprivation, because it sounded like he was going into it last weekend. He's coming out, and he said he'd have an announcement. So we're now, everybody's got the microphone plugged in. Everybody's got the microphone at the podium. Everybody's sitting in the room wondering. We all have our phones out ready to tweet or text or whatever. And we're waiting. We're waiting for it. So that's where we're at. So for those that are asking, at what point do we look for a decision? I'd say almost any day now. But I got to think, and I really believe he will let the Packers know first. And after that, and then the Packers make that, secret call to Rob Domofsky or whomever and say, hey, guess what? He told us he's coming back. Now, we got some decisions to make. We have no further comment, but Roger says he's coming back. Okay, great. And then they hang up, and then there's breaking news, and we go through that. And that's when we find out what direction they're going to go. So for those that are asking it, we'll see. Base player YZ says, trade picks are fine, but I want a stud guy on the D-line to join Clark. What guy off the Jets D-line would you get along with picks? Oh, that's a great question. First of all, I don't know if that's what you would get. Now there's some talk coming out of Vegas about the possibility of picking up their tight end, who, by the way, which I thought was interesting, he was at the Cigars with the Stars party. I wasn't quite sure. I didn't know him to look at him. So I had to play a little bit ignorant there, to be honest with you. But we're sitting there, and Darren Waller walks by, and people are like, oh, that's Darren Waller from the Raiders. And that's the guy that many are targeting to say, look, they've wanted Waller. They've cherished Waller. They've coveted Waller, that if indeed they would trade him to the Raiders, that they would like a pick and maybe something else or what have you. And then Waller, in return, to upgrade dramatically the tight end position. Chances are Mercedes Lewis then goes by the wayside. You've got Waller as your starter, Tunyon as your backup, if indeed they decide to keep him for a cheaper amount of money. And that would be the direction they would go. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but you look at the Jets and you say, what would I want? I'd want Quinnen Williams. He was a first-round draft pick. If you're going to give me a first-round draft pick that's a stud that is going to help Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams, man. That's where I'm going right here and now. But I can't imagine them giving up Quinnen Williams. He's been one of the mainstays and the anchors on that defensive line and has really emerged as an ass kicker. I don't know why they would get rid of him. For a guy that, Quinnen Williams was drafted just a few years back. You still got him on a rookie deal. Why are they going to give up that guy for Aaron Rodgers and draft choices and such? I can't see that happening. But who knows? 877-867-1670. Get your comments. Stay tuned. We still have a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show up and coming. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at the Lux Golf Bays down in Franklin, Wisconsin. Go to Lux, L-U-X-E, luxgolfbays.com. I got to think yesterday prior to the game, they were packed down there. Probably going to be packed there today and throughout the week. It's not even going to get that cold coming up for the weekend. Lux Golf Bays, you want to get out and start getting your game on as we start to see more and more grass. The snow is pretty much melted. Go to Lux, L-U-X-E, luxgolfbays.com. That's luxgolfbays.com and get your swing on.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Good to have you. On this Monday, day after the Super Bowl night, weird day in the state of Wisconsin in the fact that it's going to be in the 50s again. Our normal high is right around 30 at this point, and we're just basking in the glow of what is. I'll take it any damn day of the week like this. You better believe it when we're in the throes of February. Whoa, heck yes. Hey, if you are starting to look outside and the grass is brown and although the sun is shining, you're thinking to yourself, maybe I might want to get into a new home. Maybe I, coming out of the 2022 mess, want to get some of the equity out of my home. Either way, my buddy Scott Ellis with Homeside Financial, I use Scott for my mortgage. He did an outstanding job in my refi, always available. Provided a great rate. As a matter of fact, there's the 2-1 buy down, which they can start you out right now with the rates being what they are at about 4.5%. And I know a lot of people that are looking to buy going, wait, what? Yeah. You got to call him to find out what it's all about. But call my buddy Scott, 414-791-7771. 414-791-7771. That's my buddy Scott Ellis from Homeside Financial. And just really a good dude right here in the state of Wisconsin. Again, 414-791-7771. If you're looking to get cash and home equity, if you're looking to pay off debt, if you're looking for a new mortgage, get pre-qualified, whatever it happens to be, he can help you out. And again, 414-791-7771, 414-791-7771. Earlier, we had a listener who called and said, hey, I think it was Derek from Albany, said, hey, you got to take a look at the article that was written by Ken Lass over on Cheesehead TV. And I did. I grabbed it and I took a look at it. And some of the arguments are legit, when he says, when it's time, coming out of the darkness, so to speak, or Revelations from the Darkness is the name of the article. And it says you have nothing more to prove here. I want to go back to that. Okay, I want to go back to that. He said it's not in your best interest to stay in Green Bay because the Packers are not going to win a Super Bowl next year and you're going to get the blame. It won't matter that the management made an all-out commitment to run it back by dishing out huge contracts to players, including you, who are underperforming. And it won't matter that coaches who should be fired are getting retained. The teams are in for a few years of mediocrity until they can work their way out from underneath salary cap commitments and dead money and restrictions and all that kind of stuff. Okay. It's hard for me to say whether or not they're a Super Bowl contender. Do they look as good as the teams that were in the postseason? No, of course they don't. And it all starts with 12. When it says it's not in your best interest to stay in Green Bay, I look at it just the opposite. I think it is. And here's the reason why. Because if you go into New York or Las Vegas, you're looked at as the savior. Like you are the guy that's going to take them to the promised land. Tom Brady did it in Tampa Bay. Peyton Manning did it in Denver. You're the guy. And if you don't live up to that, you're a bust. You're a bum who was at the end of his career, who was a condescending jackass, and my team gave up a lot for you, and you didn't produce, and you came in with your attitude and your ego, and you weren't worth a darn. Again, it goes back to commitment. So to say it's not in your best interest, to me, if I'm Rodgers, and I do have a higher plane, I do have a level that people need to get on, you've got a young up-and-coming wide receiving core that needs to be accentuated by a veteran. You can probably get yourself a decent tight end in the draft. You've got a good offensive line that now they're back and they're cohesive. You just need to add another piece or two defensively. You've got a good tandem in running backs. I don't think you're as far away. In the NFL, you're not, unless you're in a rebuild, you're not far away. You can add a couple of pieces and off and running you go. So I don't think you're as far away from everything as many think you are. Now, I will say this, you better get on the same page as your head coach. And your head coach, and I hope he's listening, at some point, you better grow a pair of cojones. Because the perception is you're soft. The perception is you ran back a poor defensive coordinator. The perception is you and the entire organization is now bowed down, puckered up, and kissed the ass of your quarterback. That's your perception. Whether it's true or not, that's your perception. Perception becomes reality in a lot of people's minds. So things have to change. So I wouldn't necessarily agree with that take. He does say if you do stay, you have to be all in. I 100% believe in that. The front office probably logically wants to say, you know what, we want to get out of this. But if Rodgers comes back and says I'm all in, you look around the rest of the NFC. Like I said, you look at Philadelphia, you got Dak Prescott in Dallas. You got an up-and-coming team in your own division in the Detroit Lions, but are they for real yet? With Jared Goff? We know what the Vikings have been. They've been paper champions. They didn't succeed in the postseason, and they fired Ed Donatel. You've got a head coach who insists on keeping his buddy Joe Barry, and again, if Rodgers has an incredible year and the defense gives it away, nobody's blaming Rodgers. Everybody's going to applaud Rodgers for coming back and putting all of his effort into this, and they're going to look at Matt LaFleur saying, you need to go. You screwed the pooch on this. You're the one that cost this team. You're the one that kept that inept defensive coordinator around. If indeed the defense loses this thing, they'll look at Rodgers came back and recommitted himself. What did you do? So I still think there's a chance for Rodgers to, even if he doesn't win a championship, to ride off on a very, very high note in Green Bay. Because you have to look at things realistically. And to say that you have nothing to prove here, you don't really have anything to prove, but to yourself and what your original goal was. You wanted to be considered the best quarterback in Green Bay Packer, modern era history, that being the Super Bowl era. And I know people are going to say, well, it's always Bart Starr. Look at the championships that he won. But that's not in the modern Super Bowl era. He won 2. If Rodgers wins one more, okay, let's just say they do. If Rodgers wins one more with his 2 Super Bowls and his accolades and records and efficiency and quarterback rating, and you put all of that together, by far he's the best quarterback in Green Bay Packer history in the modern Super Bowl era. And you could even take it a step further and saying the best quarterback in Packer history easily in the free agent era, that is. Because of the number of times he drug a team that had no business being in an NFC championship game. He drug a team to an NFC championship just to get them there. Ultimately, they failed, but the majority of that was not on Rodgers' shoulders. We've been down this road before. So I wouldn't say I would completely agree with that article, but unless Rodgers is all in, if he's not all in, then I completely agree with it. It's time to move on. And that's not because he's not a good quarterback. It's just, if you're not going to commit, then what are you doing? You got what, year, 2, maybe 3, if you decide to keep playing, and you're being paid $60 million and you don't really, I've earned up my time to relax. No, if anything, I'll never forget when I did the post-game show with Brian Noble, and Brian having a talk, telling me about the conversations he had with Brett Favre, begging Brett, you're nearing the end of your career here. You got to start studying. You got to work harder. And Favre finally realized that. As you get older, you get wiser. Mentally, you can see things, but your physical decline begins, and you have to work 2, 3, 4 times harder than your younger counterparts in the gym every day, and on your legs every day, and on your arm, and on your strength, and on your core every day. You got to work 3 times as hard because Father Time's already grabbing you by the throat, ready to throw you to the ground. So if you're not all in, then quit. Then leave. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. I want to hear more from you. This portion of the program brought to you by, we mentioned it a little while ago. Mike said he's heading down to Geno's, down to Calderon Club, San Giorgio, down there, Old World 3rd Street in downtown Milwaukee, Wisconsin. If you're going to a Bucks game, a Badger game, or a Packers game, or Bucks game, Admirals game, Marquette game, you can head to any one of those. Brewers game downtown, concert, play, you name it, anything like that. Or maybe you are going to go to a Packers game or something. Who knows? The night before, head over to Gina's place. Great stuff, great Italian food, especially if you're looking for that Valentine's weekend, whether it was this past weekend or coming up or even tomorrow night. You want to go out for Valentine's Day, it is absolutely the perfect Italian food, Italian place to go to. Just awesome. Stop in and tell them we said hi, and they pair it up. They pair it up with our guys from Cider Boys and Point Brewing, and that's what they serve down there. So they put it all together, and it's a great dining experience. Go down and check. Plus, they've got some great wines and Peronis and all that kind of stuff, but they work a lot with Joe Martino and the gang from Point Brewing and Cider Boys too. But stop down and tell them we said hi, because they're just great people down there. Stay tuned. We got more of the Bill Michaels Show is next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket, this is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Everywhere you look, from groceries to utilities to gas, prices keep going up. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin can dramatically help lower your energy costs year-round by replacing drafty windows and doors in as little as 6 weeks. And now you can save even more by taking advantage of 0% interest for up to 48 months when you lock in your prices by February 28th. I'm Gina Della from Pella. Bring the love of Wisconsin's outdoors in through the beauty and quality craftsmanship of Pella Windows and Doors. Whether you're updating or upgrading the look and comfort of your home, Pella has extensive lines of customizable options to meet your needs and your budget, no matter the season. Replacing drafty windows and doors can dramatically lower your energy costs. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin offers some of the most energy efficient windows in the industry, designed to keep the cold outside where it belongs. Lock in your prices by February 28th and get 0% interest for up to 48 months. Visit PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, here's Mike Clemens.
The Chiefs come back to beat the Eagles 38-35 in Super Bowl 57. Kansas City down 24-14 at the half, scored 24 points, led by quarterback Patrick Mahomes.
We just challenged each other, man, to leave everything out there. And I don't want to say we played tight in the first half, but you didn't see that same joy that we play with. And I wanted guys to just know that everything we work for is for this moment. You have to enjoy this moment. You can't let the moment overtake you.
Mahomes named both the regular season and Super Bowl MVP. The last time that happened was 1999 by Hall of Fame quarterback Kurt Warner. The Eagles dominated the time of possession in the first half. Philly's offense ran 44 plays to just 20 for Kansas City. The Chiefs' Chris Jones says the defense finally turned things around.
A lot of players made some big plays, whether it's Nick Bolton scooping and scoring, whether it's the big hits tonight, man. Those guys came to play. Resilient. We faced adversity a lot this year, and throughout that, we was able to build character along this team.
The loss leaves Philly with a lot of question marks in the offseason. 34-year-old defensive end Brandon Graham talked about 35-year-old center Jason Kelsey.
boy, I know Jason definitely got a lot of thinking to do.
The Eagles' Jason Kelsey was at his locker after the loss.
I hadn't quite let the emotion get to me yet. I'm sure we'll have a more emotional interaction. Still frustrated at that point.
The Chiefs' Travis Kelsey says it was hard to find the words after beating his brother's team in the Super Bowl.
There's nothing you can really say to a loved one in a situation like that. You joke around all the time and say that you want to beat your brother in the biggest stage ever, but it's a weird feeling.
That's Travis Kelsey from Super Bowl 57 in Arizona. I'm Mike Clemens on The Bill Michaels Show.
Our friends at New Male Medical have an all-new weight loss program they want you to try. So if you are thinking about getting into shape, as maybe this weather is just a hint of the upcoming T-shirt season, you may want to get into shape, and you may want to start dropping a few pounds, whether it's 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 30 pounds, whatever it happens to be. They have a plan for you. And all you got to do is call 414-455-4451. That's 414-455-4451, whether it's ED, low T treatments, supplements, nutrients, whatever the body needs, or the all-in-one weight loss program, which they have changed. They have accentuated. They've made it even better. It's called weight loss basically in a box. It all comes to you, your doorstep. They can help you out, and it's all tailored to you. It is 414-455-4451. That's 414-455-4451. I got a couple of emails to get to. Our buddy Steve hits us up and says, hey, welcome back. Entertainment, I'm a country fan. Quite frankly, was concerned that Chris Stapleton would not do well in the national anthem. Pleasantly surprised, did a great job. Rihanna was nothing to take note of. I agree with you that the halftime show would be better with like the UW or Ohio State marching bands. The game, great 58 minutes of Super Bowl. Then the bad call. Andy Reid, a great coach, and quite frankly, should have been the head coach of the Packers in '99. How about the good fortunes of Kadarius Toney and Juju Smith-Schuster, both in-season acquisitions that were good contributors to the Chiefs as well. I think the punt return by Toney changed the momentum for the Chiefs. I did think that the Eagles were going to dominate the line of scrimmage. They were manhandled, both sides of the ball. Kudos to Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo. They made some great adjustments at halftime. Have a great week. I'll say this, though. On those third and fourth and shorts, the Eagles, they're as good as anybody. On those third downs and fourth and shorts and such, that's just that's crazy. They are unbelievable at it. And Dave asks, do you think that they're going to, kind of change the rules about being able to push a quarterback forward with 2 and 3 guys in the back? I've never been a fan of that. Maybe they will. I don't know. But they have that down to a science, don't they? Now, it helps when your quarterback can squat 600 pounds, when he can start pushing the line himself. But, yeah, man, that's they've got to do a science. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, right, Chuck? Chuck says it's really weird to say Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Super Bowl champion. I'll say this. We saw, and I know you probably heard the interview, but we saw him on opening night and talked with him. He had a lot of praise, but just he didn't say anything derogatory about Aaron Rodgers, praised his own guy, said he still talks to Aaron, has a lot of good friends and such, but just, seemed to smile at the fact that he's got somebody that trusts him enough to throw in the football. Now, he didn't have a ton of catches. It wasn't like he was a star all season long, but in the biggest moment of the AFC Championship game, he's one of the guys that helped him get him there. So give him all the kudos, man. He's now got a ring. 2 hours down, 2 hours yet to go. More of the Bill Michaels Show next.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Bucks are gearing up for a big one tomorrow night as the Celtics come to town. The two teams are first and second in the Eastern Conference right now, with Boston holding a 1.5 game advantage. Milwaukee going to come in winners of 10 straight, their longest winning streak since 2020. The streak includes a sweep of their 3-game West Coast road trip. Tip tomorrow is at 6:30. Turning to the Badgers, they're in a world of hurt after blowing a 17-point second-half lead and losing at Nebraska in overtime on Saturday. Coach Greg Gard said afterward that he delivered a stern message to his team in the locker room.
We'll see how they react. We'll see how we respond tomorrow and Monday and get ready to go on Tuesday. But obviously I give Nebraska credit because in here they have played well. They're very momentum driven and momentum reliant, and we fed them a lot of momentum. A lot of this is due to our undoing and our mistakes and our changing who we were in that 3/4 of the second half.
Badgers now 6-8 in Big Ten play, sitting in 10th place in the conference. They're going to need to make a late season run to get to the NCAA tournament. If they don't, going to miss it for just the second time since 1999. That run needs to start tomorrow when Michigan comes to the Kohl Center.
For nearly 40 years, ABC of Wisconsin has been helping men and women transform themselves into well-paid, productive members of their construction teams. Today, we have 2,000 active apprentices in 10 different skilled trade programs, and we educate individuals in more trades than anyone else. To get your career started, go to buildyourcareerwi.org or just search online for ABC of Wisconsin.
Well, the New York Jets have reportedly reached out to the Packers to see their interest in trading Aaron Rodgers. The quarterback has yet to decide whether he's going to play another year or not, but it was reported this weekend by the NFL Network that if he wants to play somewhere else than Green Bay, the team is open to making that happen. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
Welcome back. Hour number 3 of the Bill Michaels Show. We continue on, and we are glad you are on board with us today, as we are each and every day for that matter. 877-867-1670. Valentine's Day is what, tomorrow? And if you were looking for a tremendous place to go, that is our friends at Kane & Kane Jewelers. They are open. It's like almost this time of year, they're like on call. They're like doctors, you know. Any moment now, a diamond emergency could break out, or a ring emergency, or a bracelet emergency, or a necklace emergency, because we all know you're looking for that last-minute gift maybe for that special somebody. They're located in West Bend, and they are worth the trip. Go to Kane, Koehn, KaneJewelry.com. Let them rock your world, as they say. And Andy has a terrific Buy Like a Guy podcast, and you can go check out. But they're worth it. Go to Kane & Kane Jewelers in West Bend, Wisconsin. Koehn, KaneJewelry.com. That's KaneJewelry.com, and see for yourself. But they are certainly worth it, without a doubt. Good stuff from them. Let's see here. When I'm getting people that are talking about the Aaron Rodgers going into darkness thing. So I apologize for reading on the air. Sometimes it's you start to see a conversation. You're like, wait a minute, what? Said, according to the NFL Mail Online, Aaron Rodgers will begin his 4-day darkness retreat on Monday as the Packers quarterback gets set to spend 4 days alone in complete silence with food delivered through a hole and consider his future in football. So apparently he's starting this today. So, which is, I said, look, if he didn't do it last week, it was going to be this week. And I've said all along, I expect now, I really thought when he talked to McAfee last week that he was going to go into this thing like on Wednesday, go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, emerge on Saturday night in time to watch the Super Bowl, have his decision kind of made, and then, get through the Super Bowl, so to speak, and then make some sort of an announcement. And instead they're saying that no, he goes into darkness today and he will be there through Thursday, emerging on Thursday or Thursday evening, I guess. And then he will have a decision, which pretty much coincides with what I was thinking, that he's probably going to let the Packers know on Friday or Saturday, and they're going to know what's going on. We're going to hear something, because he's not going to make the announcement on the Pat McAfee show. It would be completely disrespectful to the Green Bay Packers to do that. So he would most likely let them know ahead of time and then talk about that decision on McAfee. So the rest of the world's going to find out, I would say, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And then he'll come out and discuss it, I would assume, on the McAfee show next week. But that's just my assumption. That's nothing written in stone. It's just basically, saying that's kind of the thought process. Because he said he didn't want to drag it into March, right? He wanted to get it, done before free agency and before that particular point in time. So, basically it's a 2-week window. Tim says, love the show on WKTY on lacrosse. Started when a work buddy's son was the producer, going back to Radio Joe. Working with his dad, Frank. I know you know the family. You have grown to love the show and what you do. That's Timmy in Stoddard, Wisconsin. Stay safe. That's our buddy Tim. Tim, appreciate it. Let's see here. Dude, I'm heading down to Scottsdale, listening to the show now. Driving to the airport with my Titleist hat on in Cedar Creek Pro Polo. This was last week when I was talking about, they had, I tell you this, man, that Waste Management Open, that was, first of all, it was fun, which was awesome. But also it was exactly what we thought, man. When you watched it, they had the streaker, and the streaker was the fact that he started pole dancing. All I kept thinking was Ben Kenny's going to need bail money. Apparently he started pole dancing, which was hilarious. And then from there, he took off running. He jumped into the water, got out to the Waste Management logo, swam out there, and just, I don't know if I know there's a video of it that's floating around on social media, but they didn't show it on television. But it's pretty funny. And the guy's got the paint down his back with an arrow pointing at his ass, saying it's the 19th hole. Just creative, stupid, but creativity for sure. Cheryl sends us an email, said, hey, did you miss these goodies? And it's all the chicken tenders from Quick Trip. We did. As a matter of fact, you betcha. Coming home from some of those places at night. Oh, yeah, very much so. Big time. 7-7-16 7-16-70 18th hole. That's what he had written on his back. Creative. I'll give you that. Creative. There you have it. This was from Junior. Junior says, hey, Unit, I read the post over on Cheesehead TV by Ken Lass. I think he hits the nail on the head on all cases. I do not think that it's in the best interest of the Packers or Rodgers to come back to Green Bay. Rodgers needs to move on and figure it out and win a championship somewhere else. But again, I understand, Junior, what you're saying. But this is all predicated upon the fact that if he goes somewhere else, he's going to win a championship. Now, imagine going to New York. Let's say the Jets come up. Woody Johnson just says, whatever, empty the farm. We want Rodgers for 2 years. Okay. Suppose the same thing that happens here happens there. They give up some draft choices. They believe they've got a team ready to go. They just go for it, right? Come on in. You got Garrett Wilson. You got Elijah Moore. You've got some, you picked up Denzel Mims. You've got yourself 3 deep, you're ready to go. Tyler Conklin's going to be your tight end. You got it. You got everything. You up front, you look to be pretty good. Becton, Tomlinson. I can't think of their center off the top of my head. Tucker, Mitchell. You got these guys. Thank you very much. Connor McGovern. Connor McGovern. He's the guy they picked up from Denver. So you got this offensive front. You're ready to go. Your defensive front with Quinn and Williams and company. They can eat you up. They're ready, right? Suppose you go to New York and you fail. It's same old Jets. And they gave up a lot of future for the aging Hall of Famer who, much like Favre, came in, gave him a little bit of a spark, but really didn't do anything. And then is gone, in a blink of an eye. That you talk about pressure. There's a lot of pressure there because you're expected to go in and win a championship, right? Here in Green Bay, a lot of people don't even believe you're championship material at this point. So they're going to say, why did you not trade them away when we could have gotten draft choices, unproven guys, but gotten draft choices where, suppose you come back and play great. The only criticism will be to Brian Gutekunst for not bettering the team And for management not stepping in to say, let's say the defense and Joe Barry fail, well, then they step in to say, you know what, Matt LaFleur, you got to go. You hung on to a boat anchor and didn't give this team a chance to win because of your loyalty to a guy who's been proven more often than not to fail than to succeed. That's not on Rodgers, right? Then in essence, what they'll say is, you know what, the last few years, had a couple of good years with Rodgers. You didn't have enough pieces in place to support him. Rodgers made some mistakes down the stretch, yes, but ultimately in the year that you went for it, you held on to the same old, hoping to change things. Also, don't forget, Rodgers has to learn a new coach, learn a new scheme, learn new terminology, coach him up, has to be all committed. And if I've got a guy that's all committed to winning a championship, wouldn't you rather have him here than somewhere else? So that's why when I look at what happened last night, in the words of Patrick Mahomes, I think it's two drastically different stories. If Rodgers is not committed and not all in and ready to go and wants to be a part of everything, then no, I 100% agree. Move on. Move on. But if he is, it's hard to move on. If I'm Rodgers, and then you take out, you throw in the whole legacy aspect of that, be hard not to, Rick says they'd be foolish to trade for Rodgers when Carr and Jimmy G are much younger. JJ says chances are Aaron's only going to play one more year anyway. If I was 12, I would want to at least play on a team who has the best chance to win. Who is that? Who is that? Let's eliminate all of what you could get for Rodgers in return. What team gives you the best chance to win? Think about that now. What team, if you're Rodgers, gives you the best chance to win? Seriously. Do you believe in your heart of hearts that Las Vegas is ready to go? That they're better than Kansas City? Do you believe that? I don't. Do you think the Jets are ready? I think the Jets might be the closest. But I'll tell you this, there was nobody picking the Jets at the beginning of the season to be close to winning any kind of a championship. It was Buffalo, and then all the talk was Tua after that. And even then, they wanted to see what Matt Patricia was going to do in New England as the offensive coordinator, calling the plays for Mac Jones. We found out that was a dismal failure, but they even had a shot at getting into the postseason at the end of the year. So you got to figure they're going to be in the mix. So do you want to go to the AFC East and battle Tua, battle Josh Allen, battle Mac Jones, those teams, those coaches, and you think you're going to emerge victorious there? Are you better than Buffalo? Bueller? Tennessee, maybe. You go there, they decide to say, hey, Tannehill, we're going to push you to the side. Going to go with a different direction. You got Tannehill on the IR wanting to come back. They had Joshua Dobbs, Malik Willis. You got a good running back in Derrick Henry. You got Robert Woods, Traylon Burks, all that kind of stuff. They got some decent guys there, good offensive line. They play there's nobody unbelievably dynamic, but they just play solid, fundamental football. You got Vrabel, who's a no-nonsense guy, who's a man's man, so to speak. He ain't going to take crap from that quarterback. I'll tell you that right now. So you're going to go there? Now, let's say you want to go to, let's say you're not going to a team in the NFC. What does that leave you after those three? Indianapolis? Indy? You want to run it back with Indy? You think you got a shot there? I don't think so. Indy would love to have him, but I don't think you're running it back with Indy. So who out of the AFC that needs a quarterback gives you the best chance to win? And the only way an NFC team jumps into the mix, the only way is if they give you the farm. 2 1s, more draft choices, starters, somebody that's going to be an impact player. And who's going to do that? who's got enough depth to do that, that actually is going to have a shot. You know, the only other team in the AFC that you could possibly look at would be, let's just say, Tua, and the concussions have just caught up with him. And he just now, I think just before the Super Bowl, came out of the concussion protocol. Suppose they say, hey, we'll send you to Miami, you know, for draft choices and such. And then you have to look at the position of the draft. Where are they going to be in draft choices, right? So then you look at the draft and you say, what's the availability there? And who's got the higher draft choice? What's the value of those draft choices, right? Now, you got to remember, you know, that the Colts are high. They could end up getting a higher draft choice, so they could give you something in return. Houston, okay, but you're not going to send him to Houston. He's not going to want to go there, right? The Raiders do have, I think it's the 7th overall. You can get yourself a real nice wide receiver. You can get yourself a real nice tight end out of that, maybe. But anybody else? San Francisco's not higher. They're not going to, even if they give you the extras, they're not higher up. Gives you trade capability and clout, but they're not higher up. The Jets have the number 13 overall. So you'd have the 13 and the 15 if you traded with the Jets. And then maybe you package it up to move up. But, you know, my point is, there's not many teams that have enough clout and enough players to be able to say, here you go, no big deal. And Randy says, flat out, Unit, do you believe that he's going to be a Green Bay Packer, or do you believe that he's going to be elsewhere? I've been saying all along, and I really haven't changed, if indeed he's all in. And I wouldn't think that at this point in time there'd be any reason not to be all in. And I'm talking into everything. Off-season, OTAs, mini camps, you name it, leadership, the whole deal, right? Run it back. If he's all in, 60% of me says he comes back. If he's not, he's traded. 30% of me says he's gone. And then I think there is a small percentage that could grow, that if he looks at it like, look, I don't want to be all in. Green Bay doesn't want me. I'm going to go someplace else where I'm going to expect to win a championship. And none of those teams are sitting there where I can sit there and look at them and go, oh, yeah, by far, you know, the Jets are better than Buffalo. They're better than Kansas City. They're better than Cincinnati. They're better than Baltimore. They're better than Tennessee. You know, they're better than the Chargers. Because you're stacked over there in the AFC. So if I'm not going to win a championship and I'm just going for the money for the 60 million reasons, why not come back and try to, you know, best the enemy, you know, rather than try and go somewhere else and be a hero when you're already, the chips are stacked against you, and you could end up just being, you know, another boat anchor that, you know, is a retread from Green Bay going somewhere else to try to win a championship, but ultimately failing. It's just, you know, some things to think about. 877-867-1670. If you want to find us, that's the numbers to go ahead and do so. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Cunis RV. And oh my God, with the weather being nicer, kind of makes you want to get out and do things, doesn't it? You know, starting to look at the yard, starting to think, man, I clean that up a little bit. I can get out and start maybe traveling and seeing the countryside. Think about those nights with bonfires. Think about those nights grilling out, maybe under the stars. Cunis RV, they got you going. Wisconsin's fastest growing RV dealer. Go to Cunis, Kunes, CunisRV.com. That is CunisRV.com. They are the best. They are the fastest growing. And find my buddy Scott, who's based out of the one down in Elkhorn, but he's all over the place now. Just ask for Scott and he can help you out. Go to Cunis, Kunes, CunisRV.com.
Sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Everywhere you look, from groceries to utilities to gas, prices keep going up. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin can dramatically help lower your energy costs year-round by replacing drafty windows and doors in as little as 6 weeks. And now you can save even more by taking advantage of 0% interest for up to 48 months when you lock in your prices by February 28th. I'm Gina Della from Pella. Bring the love of Wisconsin's outdoors in through the beauty and quality craftsmanship of Pella Windows and Doors. Whether you're updating or upgrading the look and comfort of your home, Pella has extensive lines of customizable options to meet your needs and your budget, no matter the season. Replacing drafty windows and doors can dramatically lower your energy costs. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin offers some of the most energy efficient windows in the industry, designed to keep the cold outside where it belongs. Lock in your prices by February 28th and get 0% interest for up to 48 months. Visit PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. One. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
And I tell you what, we got back and we were so exhausted after the travel and the week and such. And on Friday night, Kristen had some clients fly in from California. And so we had a pretty long day of travel the next day. As what always happens, it's like, yeah, we'll meet you at 7:00 for dinner. And you look at your watch, you're thinking, 7:30 to maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock at the latest, and you'll be back and you'll be sleeping and you're packed up, ready to go. And as it always happens, you get into a conversation. They know you only have, you're there for a short period of time, and you talk until like 1:30 in the morning. The restaurant's closing. They want you out. So we got home and we were watching the game, and we thought, you know what, maybe nice Ash, head down there, relax, sit in those big chairs, get a whiskey, get a cigar, get a hookah, hang out, and just take it easy. Just tiredness took over and it just didn't happen. However, it's something that is definitely on the radar for us to do at 323 West Main Street, downtown Waukesha. Love that place. So if you're out and about and you're looking for a nice, relaxing place, whether it's to watch sports as March Madness maybe gets underway, whatever, or just, as we get set for the USFL, more golf, whatever it happens to be, don't forget about our friends at theniceash.com. That's theniceash.com. And check it out. 877-867-1670. The phone number. You want to find us, please feel free. Give us a shout. We would love to hear from you. And this one's from Cassidy. Cassidy says, hey, I don't have any allegiance to Aaron Rodgers. However, I do believe that there was some legacy to be dealt with. Rodgers would probably like to get one more championship in Green Bay before he retires. Thoughts? Oh, I've said that all along. Yes. I'll just 100% agree with you. Let's go back to the phones. Let's listen to Nathan and Shawano. Nathan, how you doing today, man? What's going on?
Oh, he dropped off, Bill.
Oh, Nelson, he dropped off. Nelson, how you been, man? Have we heard from Ben Kenny, by the way, in any way, shape, or form?
He did call in today.
He did, okay.
We had to get his thoughts on everything, and it was he sounded a little hungover, a little down under the weather.
Okay.
So then we had to poke more fun at him, and then we let him go.
The poor man. The poor man. No, you heard I texted him, right? And his response to me was the entire city of Philadelphia is intoxicated.
Well, you see, I feel like it was even before the game started. They were flipping cars and, stuff on the street was getting a little out of control there.
Yeah. I saw the DPW workers with rollers painting lube onto the poles. Did you see that too? And where do you go? Do you just start with a pole and just say, okay, I'll work my way down the street, or what? What do you do? But they've got rollers and they've got them on these big sticks and they go up maybe 10 feet. So you can't climb the pole because of how slick it is. They start putting lube all over the poles. And then there's protesters that say when it rains, the lube is going to get into the sewer system and kill fish. And it's just like, oh my God, what a travesty that you have to go through all of this just because there's crazy people that want to climb up on the telephone poles.
Well, now think about Ben and where he's at,
right.
Huge soccer fan. His United team in Philadelphia lost in the championship. Obviously the Phillies lost and now the Eagles lost, all in the same year.
Right.
They all lost in the championship.
Yeah. It is a city of championship aspirations and disappointment. That's what it is. So.
Instead of the city of brotherly love, they might just have to change it to the city of losers.
Ooh,
or
that's
the city of second place.
Yeah, the city of second place. Yeah, the city of runner-up, the runner-up city, the destination. Yeah, I get.
They're still little brother to like New York City or something.
Right. Oh man, at least they're getting there. Where New Yorkers are just basking in the glow of ineptitude and no championships to speak of. And Philadelphia, at least, is getting there, but they're ending up with the ultimate result of second place. So it's just, man. Oh, poor Ben. Poor Ben.
I did, Bill, put a nice little sized wager down on the Kansas City Chiefs, but also I had this in order of like my to-dos for last night. It was Kansas City to win, hit on the bets that I placed, hang out and kind of, just vibe with all your friends with the whatever party you were at.
Right.
So that was like my three things. Chiefs win, hit bets, hang out with friends, watch the game. I had to put Kansas City 1 because there's no way I could have Ben Kenny walk through that door smiling with the big grin on his face, all happy about the Eagles winning. I couldn't do it.
Poor Ben. Just taking
not with us going through the Rodgers saga and what we thought this year would be, and then it definitely wasn't that. Right. And now it's like, where are we at as a franchise? Nope. I couldn't see the smile or the grin and the happiness. I needed to have, the depression and the sadness, just like how we're feeling.
And think about what, like Philly for his shot is going to look like next year. No Ndamukong Suh, no Linval Joseph. Some of the pickups they had mid-season that were just brilliant to be able to get them there, not going to be there. You wonder what they're going to do and how that team is going to look next. And every team is like that. There's going to be guys you're going to lose, but they lost some contributors that they picked up smartly down the stretch to make that team better. And a lot of those guys not going to be back. So it's going to be an interesting offseason for everybody in the NFL, not just Philadelphia, but yeah, that might have been, they may be the fans that are sitting there like Packers fans going, you know what? 2022, 23 was our best shot. And now you live in anonymity for a few years. And remember, I don't think it's been, how many years has it been since the same team has won that division in back-to-back seasons?
I'd have to think on that for a little bit.
I mean, I know statistically speaking, it's been a long time. So it's and you figure, if history repeats itself, then chances are it'll be Dallas or New York or somebody else in that division winning that division. I can't imagine Washington climbing that.
If you're the Packers, you think about, running it back with Rodgers and what's your next step, but you think of where you're currently at if you do run it back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at this point, for me, it's probably the last season where you could quote unquote run it back and not have to cut enough good players, because you're just starting to have to cut good players now, where you could maybe have a shot at the Super Bowl. But when you say maybe, you start thinking about percentages and you're like, well, we have to still figure out our cap. We have to draft well. We need Aaron Rodgers to play at an MVP level. We need Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs to play better. We need more consistency out of Devondre Campbell and a step from Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt. So it's like a lot of these things have to fall into place, right? And you're like,
right.
Ooh, well, we're kind of already behind probably the Niners, the Eagles, the Cowboys. And then you look at the AFC. Well, then you got Cincy, Buffalo, KC. It's like, man, that's 6 teams easy that you can just count off the top of your head that we're probably still behind. And we have to have everything fall in line for us.
Not since 2004 has the same team won back-to-back years the division in the NFC East. And that was a run of 2001 through 2004 by Philadelphia, who lost the NFC Championship game 3 straight years in a row, and then they lost the Super Bowl in 2004. So that, going back to that, but since then, since 2004, it was the Giants, Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, Cowboys, Eagles, Giants, Redskins, Eagles, Cowboys, Redskins, Cowboys, Eagles, Cowboys, Eagles, Washington football team, Cowboys, Eagles. And in 2011, the Giants won the Super Bowl and as the champions of the NFC East. In 2017, the Eagles won the Super Bowl as the champions in 2017. But that's it. It's been that long since the team has been back-to-back winners of the NFC East. Oof. That has been a tough division, no doubt. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Hang out. We got more after this.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
They say the sky's the limit, but why stop there? This February at Potawatomi Casino Hotel, you can reach for the stars. Each Thursday night, if the stars align, you could reach for a piece of $400,000 in cash and prizes. Just play with your club card to earn entries 3 times on drawing days. Your win is written in the stars. Just play to find it. Only at Potawatomi. Visit paysbig.com/stars for more. Must be 21 years old and a club member to play.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
I know coming up at the ICHC, ICHC.net, by the way, which is our friends at the Irish Cultural and Heritage Center. They got the Drowsy Lads coming up this Friday. If you're going to get your drink on and your Friday on and your St. Patrick's Day on, the Drowsy Lads, come on. That's the way to do it. So if you haven't had a chance to get tickets, by all means, go to ICHC.net. That's ICHC.net. and they have Cassie and Maggie coming up, Cynthian. They've got JP Cormier and Dave Gunning coming up in March, Lunasa. So many great acts coming up. Get a hold of our buddy Corey over there, 414-345-8800, 414-345-8800. But for St. Patrick's Day, you want to get into it? The Drowsy Lads at the Irish Cultural and Heritage Center, Wisconsin Avenue in Milwaukee. And, oh, my God, they're so good. So good. Get your St. Patrick's Day on. Big time. 877-867-1670. It's JJ says it's got to be a little annoying to Eagles fans losing their old HC, losing to their old head coach. Now, you know what? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think you've got a good thing in Nick Sirianni. I just think that, like all teams, things are going to change. Now it's what you do with the aftermath. Sometimes you got to walk before you run. And, Philadelphia, I said this in the game, that there's a lot of things you can look at. The ticky-tack officiating call is one of them. But the fact that you had two big gaffes, one specifically is the fumble. Okay, Jalen Hurts dropping the football, it gets returned for a touchdown. That's huge. That was minimally a 10-point swing. Okay, minimally. The other is the big kickoff or the big punt return, which set up the next score. So two big gaffes that in a championship game you just can't do. You just, it's the old thought process, and it holds true today, is in a championship game, you're already two really good teams, right? Two really good teams, unquestioned. So it's whether or not it's who makes the least amount of mistakes. And Philadelphia made two big ones. That's it. Two big ones, nothing more. That's it. So, that's what I look at. I mean, yeah, for as much as people want to, whine and bitch and moan and complain about the ticky-tack, call, and I understand it. I agree with it. But I also look at it and say, you had your opportunities and you allowed a big run back and you turned the ball over. Nothing more you can do. So that to me is what the problem was, more so than anything. This is from Justin. Justin says, hey, guys, terrific show and great analysis for Aaron Rodgers. I still think Rodgers has something left in the tank, but he can't carry a team by himself anymore. If I'm Rodgers, I want to go to a team that gives me the best chance to win. What team do you think that is? We were just talking about that. I don't think, I don't think one team is far light years ahead of another in the realm of being able to get to a Super Bowl. So when you look at the AFC teams, are the Jets far better than say Green Bay? Far better, more prepared. How close are the Jets to, say, knocking off the current champion Kansas City Chiefs? I don't think they can. Okay, let's go to Las Vegas. Come on. They're not, even with the addition of Rodgers, they're not the best team in their division. And the Chargers could be a close second. I think Las Vegas would immediately go to being the second best team in the division. But I still think, are they capable of getting past Kansas City? Probably not. Okay? So let's go to, say, Tennessee. Tennessee's a good team, but Jacksonville's on the come. Now you got to get past Trevor Lawrence and company. The only other team in the AFC that you're thinking about maybe would be Indianapolis, or if, say, Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh says, no, let's go all in. Let's do this. And they've got somewhat of a quarterback in Pittsburgh they're trying to develop. Cleveland doesn't. Cincinnati doesn't. Baltimore doesn't. Right? Are you going to unseat Josh Allen? Are you going to unseat Joe Burrow? Does Tua come back and play extremely well in Miami? Maybe if Tua's not coming back, maybe you could go in that direction for Miami. But you think about that. You've got Patrick Mahomes. Who knows what next year is going to hold? I think Russell Wilson's done, but who knows what that's going to hold with a new head coach. Deshaun Watson, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. And like I'd already mentioned, you got Josh Allen and Tua. You got some good quarterback play over there. Whereas in the NFC, who are the big threats in the NFC? Well, Jalen Hurts. I've said all along, Dak Prescott's not going to win you a championship. Kyler Murray? No. And you don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be in San Francisco, right? Tom Brady's gone. Nobody in the NFC South would scare you. So that leads you right back to, does Daniel Jones take it up another notch in New York? Does Justin Fields get enough support around him for Chicago suddenly to make a run, or Jared Goff? Do they run it back again with a different defensive coordinator in Minnesota? Who's better? So if you talk about your legitimate chance to win a championship or get to a Super Bowl, it probably your best bet, or at least the least path of resistance would be the NFC. And the Packers aren't going to trade them away to an NFC team, not unless, say, San Francisco just falls on their damn head and offers the moon for Aaron Rodgers. And that means San Francisco is going all in, much like LA did, and they're going to try to run it back at least one time while they've got that defense together. So that's where I stand. But again, if Rodgers is not all in, then who cares? Send him anywhere. Send him anywhere. Because it's true. You can lose as easy with him as you can without him. But if he's all in, he can win you games. I really believe that. And the last time you doubted him, the last time you said he's done, the last time you thought he was washed up, he won back-to-back MVPs and played extremely well. In the postseason, he failed. I understand that. There was a myriad of failures. Aaron Jones fumbling the football, Mercedes Lewis fumbling the football, the offensive line coming back seemingly healthy, but still being dysfunctional, getting his ass kicked on a regular basis. You can go through a list of things, a defense playing soft, the inability to stop the run. I mean, there's so many things there other than just Rodgers. We focus on him, and I think rightfully so. But other than him, there's plenty to go around.
Bill, I'm not trying to defend Aaron Rodgers by saying this or trying to shed, blame somewhere else, but doesn't it seem like in this window that would be 2020 through 2022 with this Green Bay Packer team, I feel like Aaron Jones has had some huge fumbles and some pretty poor games also in those playoffs, but no one ever talks about it because much like the head coach, if they're going to lose, it's either going to be the head coach or the quarterback that takes a lot of the blame. But Aaron Jones has been pretty stinky in the postseason as well.
Yep. I 100% agree. Completely agree. I mean, that was the talk coming out of the Detroit game. In some of these big moments when you really needed him, he's had some hits on the football that he's coughed it up. You go back to the game against Tampa Bay, he coughed it up. And then this year he coughed it up. The year prior was Mercedes Lewis that coughed it up, but it's been big fumble. And it's always been early on in a ball game when you're driving. You go down, you get a score, you come back, you're driving again, and then it's happened. Then that fumble has happened. And this team, correct me if I'm wrong, they don't have the ability to recover. It's like they face adversity and go into they curl up.
Well, I think that stems just from the leadership, and
that I agree with too.
LaFleur is the head coach. He doesn't seem like a guy that deals with adversity well. And I think you can go back to when he's got a game plan and it comes out and it's a really, really good game plan. The Packers beat the hell out of the team they're playing, and it's smooth. But when they come out and they struggle right away, it feels like it never, ever gets on track.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree.
I feel like Matt LaFleur, it feels like when they lose, they look bad. They get blown out. It's either they're really on or they're really, really off.
100%. I couldn't agree more. 877-867-1670. Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back with more of this. Don't forget about our friends out there at Buzzard Billy's in La Crosse. As a matter of fact, I got to get a hold of our girl Carmen out that direction. I was just talking about her the other day. Haven't talked to them in a while, but Buzzard Billy's, her and her husband own it, and the Starlight Lounge upstairs. Fantastic place. If you're out, maybe now catching up, maybe after some of that, the weather's beautiful, you head out, maybe want to enjoy a day downtown, head over to our friends Buzzard Billy's in La Crosse. Terrific place. Head upstairs on maybe a Friday, Saturday night, maybe tomorrow night for Valentine's Day. Head to the Starlight Lounge. You get one of those nice cocktails, those martinis. That's fabulous. Stop over there and tell them we said hi.
The Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Everywhere you look, from groceries to utilities to gas, prices keep going up. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin can dramatically help lower your energy costs year-round by replacing drafty windows and doors in as little as 6 weeks. And now you can save even more by taking advantage of 0% interest for up to 48 months when you lock in your prices by February 28th. I'm Gina Della from Pella. Bring the love of Wisconsin's outdoors in through the beauty and quality craftsmanship of Pella Windows and Doors. Whether you're updating or upgrading the look and comfort of your home, Pella has extensive lines of customizable options to meet your needs and your budget, no matter the season. Replacing drafty windows and doors can dramatically lower your energy costs. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin offers some of the most energy efficient windows in the industry, designed to keep the cold outside where it belongs. Lock in your prices by February 28th and get 0% interest for up to 48 months. Visit PellaWI.com.
Grilling outside or hearing that sizzle indoors? Get your choice cuts delivered right to your doorstep from SchulzeFamilyBeef.com. That's SchulzeFamilyBeef.com.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, here's Mike Clemens.
The Kansas City Chiefs get the win 38-35 over the Philadelphia Eagles in Super Bowl 57 in front of nearly 68,000 fans in attendance. The Chiefs were down 24-14 at the half. Andy Reid on how he motivated his team in the second half.
Yeah, listen, we were right there. I don't have to motivate these guys too much. They're very motivated to do well, and we were down by 10 points, so it's not that much with the way our defense plays and shutting people down and and the way our offense plays by scoring points.
Patrick Mahomes threw 3 touchdowns and ran on some key third downs despite re-injuring his right ankle with less than 2 minutes left in the second quarter.
A lot of soreness going through into halftime, and was able to move it around, kind of get taped up a little bit and go out there in that second half. And it didn't feel good, but I was going to leave it all out there, and I'm glad it was enough for the win.
A key play was a controversial call when the Eagles' James Bradbury grabbed the jersey of receiver Juju Smith-Schuster and was penalized with defensive holding. That gave the Chiefs a fresh set of downs at the Eagles' 11-yard line with just 1:48 left in the game. Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni.
There's going to be calls that are going to get questioned, right? Not only by the referees, there's going to be questionable things that I do, or there's going to be questionable things that Coach Gannon does, or Coach Steichen does, or Jalen does. We understand that, but it's never about one play. It's never about one play. They got to do a hard job and split second decisions.
So the Chiefs earned their second Lombardi Trophy in 4 years. Quarterback Jalen Hurts says the Eagles' loss will motivate him to return for Super Bowl 58 next year in Las Vegas.
And that I know that'll motivate me. I've been here before. That's the beautiful thing about it. So I'll figure it out.
That's Jalen Hurts from Super Bowl 57 in Arizona. I'm Mike Clemens on The Bill Michaels Show.
Good to have you. Good to have you back. This portion of the program is brought to you by our friends at Kemp's, right here, Cedarburg, Wisconsin, and you know their product well. Matter of fact, I picked up some of their chocolate milk yesterday. But our friends at Kemp's, and they want to remind you that if you want a career, they are looking for good people. Kemp's has been around a long time. Like I said, based in Cedarburg, Wisconsin, they're looking for really good people to join the production, cooler distribution teams right now, CDL drivers, production people, and again, the cooler employees and maintenance technicians, $23 an hour plus. And they have everything from terrific benefits, career opportunities, not just a job, but a career with a long-standing Wisconsin company. Go to Kemps.com, K-E-M-P-S, Kemps.com. Go to the bottom of the page, click on careers, fill it out, you're good to go. It's that simple, but Kemps has been around a long time. And like I said, picked up some Kemps chocolate milk yesterday. Good stuff. But if you want a career and you're looking for a good place to go, that's our friends at Kemps, K-E-M-P-S, Kemps.com. And click on careers at the bottom of the page for all the opportunities that Kemps has. Again, Kemps, K-E-M-P-S.com. Click on careers at the bottom of the page. Doesn't matter how old you are. They even can do some training as well. So get a hold of our friends at Kemps. Got one from Ronald here. And
Ronald says, hey, guys, would the Super Bowl being in Vegas make Rodgers want to reunite with Devontae Adams and have a home game at the Super Bowl? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think that really plays into it. I mean, it's closer towards the West Coast. Vegas is, a 5-hour ride from Arizona. It's a 6 or something hour ride from LA. It's not a terrible venture, to be honest. So it's, maybe it's just closer, but I don't think it means that he's looking at it as the possibility of a home field advantage throughout the AFC. I don't. I mean, there's a lot of things to consider, but as far as being your driving factor, I don't think so. I think your driving factor is 1, money, 2, winnability, 3, comfort, getting into a system or remaining with a system that you know. I think all of those play into this, but I don't think he goes, oh, you know what? Hey, if we win this, we can do this. We can go here. We can go there. I don't think that happens. 1 hour yet to go. 1 hour. Stay tuned. The day after Super Bowl, beautiful day outside. Hopefully you're enjoying a little bit of the weather if you're a Wisconsinite. This time of year when you get 45, 50 degrees, as opposed to 30 and mid-teens, we'll take that in a heartbeat. Stay tuned. A whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Bucks are gearing up for a big one tomorrow night as the Celtics come to town. The two teams are first and second in the Eastern Conference right now, with Boston holding a 1.5 game advantage. Milwaukee going to come in winners of 10 straight, their longest winning streak since 2020. The streak includes a sweep of their 3-game West Coast road trip. Tip tomorrow is at 6:30. Turning to the Badgers, they're in a world of hurt after blowing a 17-point second-half lead and losing at Nebraska in overtime on Saturday. Coach Greg Gard said afterward that he delivered a stern message to his team in the locker room.
We'll see how they react. We'll see how we respond tomorrow and Monday and get ready to go on Tuesday. But obviously I give Nebraska credit because in here they have played well. They're very momentum driven and momentum reliant, and we fed them a lot of momentum. A lot of this is due to our undoing and our mistakes and our changing who we were in that 3/4 of the second half.
Badgers now 6-8 in Big Ten play, sitting in 10th place in the conference. They're going to need to make a late season run to get to the NCAA tournament. If they don't, going to miss it for just the second time since 1999. That run needs to start tomorrow when Michigan comes to the Kohl Center.
For nearly 40 years, ABC of Wisconsin has been helping men and women transform themselves into well-paid, productive members of their construction teams. Today, we have 2,000 active apprentices in 10 different skilled trade programs, and we educate individuals in more trades than anyone else. To get your career started, go to buildyourcareerwi.org or just search online for ABC of Wisconsin.
Well, the New York Jets have reportedly reached out to the Packers to see their interest in trading Aaron Rodgers. The quarterback has yet to decide whether he's going to play another year or not, but it was reported this weekend by the NFL Network that if he wants to play somewhere else than Green Bay, the team is open to making that happen. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Darkness now, and we will wait and see what happens when he does emerge. Who knows? 877-867-1670. The big story was a non-story, for lack of a better term. The fact that the Jets, in some way, shape, or form, have gotten a hold of the Packers and said, hey, what'll it take? You know, and I'm sure we're going to get hey, they're having conversations without me. That's kind of interesting. And the world's going to go nuts. And everybody's going to think that Aaron Rodgers is pissed off and he doesn't want to come back. And the relationship between him and Gutekunst is just, it's frayed. And it's like, just stop. They've bent over backwards. If Rodgers is mad at this point, then there is no appeasing him. They gave him everything he wanted. Everything. Gave him everything he wanted. Kept his guys. Paid him the money, made the contract unbelievably incredible. Gave him everything he wanted. Didn't work. He took time off. They didn't harass him. They didn't hassle him. He did what he wanted to do. Let Cobby coach him up, came back, and complained about not being on the same page. All of that. Played with a broken thumb, played with a banged up knee. I get it. It hindered it. Understood. But to say that, hey, the Jets have called, I'm sure there's been conversations even or thoughts of prior to this. I mean, there's been words from, their, Woody Johnson, their owner, saying, we'll do whatever it takes to win. If that means, up in the ante and trading for Aaron Rodgers, maybe we'll do that. Who knows? But it's been out there for a while. We all know this. There's not a lot new. It's just Rodgers is in the stream of consciousness when it comes to talking about the NFL, and he's going to continue to be, and so be it. Now you just wait and see. You wait and see. Here's one thing to think about. Patrick Mahomes, after the game, when asked about his relationship with the head coach, and this is where I really began my thought when it came to head coaches and the connection between the two and what it means for, say, Rodgers and LaFleur in the parallel there. Mahomes said about Andy Reid, he's one of the greatest coaches of all time. I think everybody knew that, but these last two Super Bowls kind of cemented that. To have someone that is such a great person who gets the best out of every player to become men and better players, you just wanted to do that. You wanted to win those Super Bowls for him. It's great that we did that. And like you said, we're not done. I'm going to have him around for a little while longer at least. You don't hear that kind of conversation. You know what I mean? You just don't. With Aaron Rodgers and the discussion of the relationship between him and the head coach. Excuse me. Yeah, you don't get that. But I that was one quote that stood out to me. That he just basically did it and talked about it, about not winning for himself and his legacy and being so young and getting it, but basically saying that this one's for coach cementing his legacy, you know? And you don't hear that. You don't hear that kind of stuff. You just don't get that. Travis Kelce, in the meantime, what was it about the second half? He said it felt pretty good, probably a few plays we'd like back, but we were rolling as an offense. We went into that halftime and came in with a different mentality and a lot of confidence coming out of it. The biggest difference from the first Super Bowl to this one, the biggest difference is it solidifies your greatness. You didn't get lucky once. It wasn't beginner's luck or whatever you want to call it. We won and took it. It's 2 out of 4. And then he talked about Andy Reid, for him going up against his old team. We wanted to get this one for him so bad. His legacy in Philadelphia is going to live on forever. I know that city loves him. I love that organization, that they love him. But ever since he's been here in Kansas City, I've seen it firsthand. He's poured in his heart, his mind, his soul into the organization and to his team and to lead this group of men. You call it what you want. That didn't happen there in Philly. That happened right here in Kansas City. There's a lot of pride knowing that he's had success in 2 different organizations. It's just that this one is better. And I would do anything for that guy, absolutely anything. Have you heard that about Matt LaFleur? Does anybody say this about Matt LaFleur? Travis Kelce also said in regards to Andy Reid, he's the ultimate challenger. He can relate to you and get the best out of you. I wish it was easier said, and I wish you could explain it better, but it's what makes him the greatest. To have 53 grown men find a way to challenge them without disrespecting anyone and then challenge them together. He does it better than anyone I've ever met in my life. And I owe a lot of my success to him, and I respect his leadership, and I try to be as much of a leader as he is to everyone else. Does anybody say that about Matt LaFleur? Does anybody put it out there that they out of because of LaFleur? Anybody? Yeah, and I get it. When you're coming off of a Super Bowl, I get it. It's easy to get into those sentimentalities, but I don't hear that. I just don't. I don't hear that coming out of anybody regarding Matt LaFleur. It's just, again, I look at the parallels. This is a team that lost its best wide receiver, maybe 1 or 2 in the league. The Packers lose their best wide receiver. They've got a really good tight end. The Packers had a tight end that's not nearly as good, and coming back from injury, you couldn't utilize him as much. But the Packers had a tremendous 1-2 punch. They still brought back the veterans that Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback, wanted. The offensive line finally got solidified and kind of worked themselves out. All of that. And all we talk about is what the quarterback thinks, and did he feel disrespected? And, there's so much to that. And it's like, wow, it's just night and day. It literally is just night and day. Let's see here. I think Mike Sherman and Mike Holmgren are the last 2 coaches that players rallied around, like they were speaking about Andy Reid. Holmgren, I'd say to a certain extent. You can say when McCarthy won it the first time that they kind of said it a little bit because they wanted to be able to prove they could win without Brett Favre. So maybe it was, but I think it was more about doing it without Favre than it was winning it for Mike McCarthy. Because they didn't, I mean, even Aaron Rodgers, said, hey, look, when asked about, going through the Mike McCarthy quarterback school and the greatness and such, even, Rodgers was like, wait a minute, it's me. It's me. I'm the one that, bettered myself. I mean, he gave me some guidance, but everybody acts like he's some kind of, like guru when it was my willingness to work. Uh, 877-867-1670. Find us 877-867-1670. Sherman, actually, when you talk about Mike Sherman, when he lost to guys, I think it was in Philadelphia. Speaking of Philly, it was the 4th and 26 game, but it was the 4th and 1 after he had told his team, we're going to ride the offensive line to a Super Bowl, and got down to 4th and 1, 4th and goal, and instead kicked a field goal when they were, a foot and a half, 2 feet away from plunging it into the end zone and changing the dynamic of that game. And that's when the guys went, yeah, right. You don't even believe in us to run behind us to gain 2 feet. And that's when the beginning of the end happened for him. That's what I believe. Just when you talk to guys in that locker room, they just were like, he was all verbose about going for it and putting us on the line and making us winners. And instead, he took the easy way out. What else do we have here for you? This is from, who's this from? This is from Jimmy. Jimmy said, what was your favorite halftime commercial? You know what? Who cares? I'll be honest, and I don't mean to disrespect you, Jimmy, but when you get a lot of these commercials that air before the Super Bowl and they don't surprise you during the Super Bowl, it's like I've already seen them. I thought the Ben Affleck, the Dunkin' Donuts thing was actually pretty good. I love dogs, you know that. The Amazon commercial, even my buddy Dwayne from Dwayne's Covered All Up in Wausau, he texted me that the dog commercial got to him. Me too. I love that commercial. I love dogs. So you know that, but there wasn't really anything else that I went, oh God, that's awesome. Oh, this is great. No, didn't really. Some of them were like a long way to get from point A to point B. I can't remember what commercial it was. There was a commercial that it was all of 30 seconds. It went a long way. And I'm like, this better be something spectacular. And it was really anticlimactic. It was like, oh, okay. There went a long way to get to that. Yeah, it was the commercials now for halftime. They're old news. I know people try to capitalize on it and such, but it just doesn't have the same luster anymore. Just doesn't. Rob says, I'm tuning in late. What did you think of the halftime show? Good music, bad halftime show. It's just considering some of the ones we've had in the past when you have to live up to the greatness of Prince playing Purple Rain in the Rain in Miami. That was a woman singing on a floating platform. There was nothing else. It was just a bunch of people in white clad, baggy sweatsuits dancing. There was nothing else to it than that. Nothing. And it's supposed to be, quote, the halftime show. And give her credit. Hey, she's pregnant. I don't know how far along, but she's pregnant. I mean, hey, the fact that she's getting up there and on a platform that high above the field, floating around and doing it, hey, kudos to her. But it wasn't a show. It was like, this is as boring. You kept waiting for something more, and it just never happened. So, again, I go back to it was boring. It was crap. Just is. Got another one here, and this one is from Tom. Tom says, spent my time eating wings and watching the game, bored out of my mind for the halftime show. The commercials were terrible. The game was excellent until the final 5 minutes, which, Tom, you're echoing a lot of the sentiments I had. Now, he says taking a knee and not running in is gutless. No, it's actually smart. The way that game ended, it didn't have the climax you wanted, because what you wanted was Kansas City to score, Jalen Hurts in this moment to be able to take it back down and then possibly go to overtime, and then, and all of that. We wanted that. We craved that. It was awesome if it would have happened that way. But Kansas City did the incredible smart thing. It was a smart team not to run it into the end zone, to take the knee, then to take another knee, let the clock wind down. Unbelievably brilliant and somewhat common sense, because Philadelphia was going to let them score after that. And instead they took a knee to watch the clock wind down to then kick the game winning field goal. That was awesome. But it was it's like I said, it's almost like un-American, because you didn't see the gladiators battling to the very end. You saw them both backing off because they were just waiting for the field goal to split the uprights. And then you had that one last gasp that you knew was never going to happen, even though they kept playing that, do you believe in miracles commercial? You knew it wasn't going to happen. And then Jalen Hurts, in that moment, who needed to wind up and get 170 yards down the field, threw this completely lame, wobbly, awful duck. And then the game just basically falls silent. And that's the way it went. When we come back, our guy Mike Clemens, live in Arizona. Stay tuned. We got more coming up after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Mahomes, pressure, lofting one, end zone incomplete. Juju Smith-Schuster couldn't catch up. There's a flag at the 10. Hang on, there's a penalty.
Prior to the pass, holding, number 24, defense, 5-yard penalty.
Worst case scenario, you'll see James Bradbury. They're going to say he grabs him. He's got his left hand on his back. I don't know. Mike, listen, I think on this stage, I think you let him play. Obviously, Mahomes thought he saw it. It changes the entire complexion of how this classic game is going to end.
The refs took that from us with a ticky-tack call. If the call is debatable, you do not call it. In the National Football League and the Super Bowl, if the call can be debated after, you do not make the call. And New York should have called down and said, hey, wave that off. Wave that off. That's not enough. That's not enough. We're not letting the game be determined like this. And they did not. And that's 2 mistakes in one play. Like, in the speed of the moment and everything, you can make a mistake. Bang. But New York is sitting there. They got guys watching the whole game. They're like in their ear. Hey, no, that's not a flag. Wave that off. You hit Carl Sheffers right there and say, wave that off. That's not a flag. They should be kicking a field goal, and we should be watching the Philadelphia Eagles see if they can do something with it. If Jalen Hurts playing the game of his life, can he make a shake? And instead, we sit there and watch them run the clock out and kick a field goal, and there's no time left. And it just doesn't feel right.
Richard Sherman, former 49ers corner, reacting after the game. And he's right. It didn't feel right. It just was, as like I said, it was like two heavyweight fighters punching each other. Pow, 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 pow. And the score is tied in the ring. And at the very end, they're both dancing. And then one fighter just takes a little jab that just lands like on the shoulder, but he gets 1 point and runs away. And he is crowned the champion. It just felt a little anticlimactic. Welcome back to the program. This portion of the show and our friend Mike Clements brought to you by the Bay Motel in Green Bay. Quiet, cozy, comfortable, just a mile from Lambeau Field and perfect for a family stay. So make the Bay Family Restaurant and the Bay Motel in Green Bay part of your itinerary. If you're going to head to Lambeau or anywhere else for that matter, head on up and say hi. And you can call them 920-494-3441, 920-494-3441. Get a hold of him. So Mike Clemens joining us now from out in Arizona. Mike, how you doing, pal?
I'm good. How are you? Because you worked your tail off last week. I don't think you got more than 4 hours of sleep a night at best, but everybody was telling me that they listened to the show and just really appreciated it, hearing from all the Hall of Famers that you had on and the current players that we got on from the team hotels. And it's all you that, gets our crew together and leads us out here. And so I'm coming back tomorrow after I covered the game last night. But so that interesting turning point, and I know you and the listeners have been talking about, the Super Bowl call. That's how it was. Energy last night between the Eagles and Chiefs fans was probably the best I've heard in the last 4 years. And this is my 18th Super Bowl. We go every year. And so when the play happened, I just looked up at the video and I saw that end zone shot, and you see James Bradbury, a guy that the Eagles picked up after the Giants were having some cap issues. He's 29 years old. He's a veteran. So Howie Roseman was able to pick him up and add him into their secondary. When you see him grab that shirt, I just thought, oh, okay, yeah, defensive holding, all right. And I had thought through most of the game, they were letting those guys play. I mean, there were some really hard hits in that game. So I thought that the refs were playing, calling a Super Bowl game. Let them play, man. Let them hit each other. It's the last game of the year. So we get Bradbury at his locker and said, what happened? What do you think was the call on that defensive holding call on Juju Smith-Schuster?
I mean, I pulled the jersey, they called holding. I was hoping they would let it ride, but it was holding. I was hoping he would let it go, but of course, he's a ref. This is a big game, and it was a hold, so they called it.
Yeah, I get it, but man, I think the rest of the world looked at it and went, it didn't really reverse his path. It didn't hinder him from getting to the ball. The ball was way overthrown to begin with. It looks like, Patrick Mahomes just threw it to throw it in the direction to draw the penalty. So it could go either way, but I think in that particular scenario, you'd probably let that go.
The situation reminds me of the night that the Vikings were playing the Packers at Lambeau Field, and Randy Moss scored another touchdown. And then remember, he turned around and pretended to drop his drawers and moon the south end zone.
Right.
And then Joe Buck came on and said, well, that's disgusting. That's uncalled for. And I wondered if Greg Olson's reaction as the color guy to say, wow, boy, I don't know about that call. And then they talked to Mike Pierre about it. I mean, I watched that this morning in the TV tape. Sometimes I wonder if the way it's immediately interpreted in the game kind of affects the opinion of everybody else. But nevertheless, I was surprised. There was Nick Sirianni, the head coach, after just losing this Super Bowl, taking a lot of questions, big crowd around him. But the very last question was, hey, Nick, on the defensive holding call on Bradbury, what do you think?
There's going to be calls that are going to get questioned, right? Not only by the referees, there's going to be questionable things that I do, or there's going to be questionable things that Coach Gannon does, or Coach Steichen does, or Jalen does. We understand that, but it's never about one play. It's never about one play, and they got to make that call in a split decision. I'm not here to debate whether it was the right call or the wrong call. Of course, sometimes I'm like, well, hey, I mean, it went against us. Of course, I don't like it, but they do a hard job in split second decisions, but it never comes down to one play, even though at times it perceives to. And that's the parity of this league, that you can always track. You can always think like, well, it was just this play, and that's just not the case. There's however many plays that we had on offense. There's however many plays that the Chiefs had on offense, and then there's all those special teams plays too. And so again, like I said, they had a hard job to do in split second, and I haven't seen all the clips, but hey, that's not what wins or loses you the game.
Mike, look, I'll say this: the fumble by Jalen Hurts, which the ball just fell out of his hands, and then obviously the big kickoff return or the punt return by the Chiefs. Those two plays were the two plays that turned the tide of the game, that were maybe a 10 to 14 point swing. So those plays are the big plays. The play at the end of the game certainly solidified it, but those plays are the big ones for the Eagles.
And for me, Bill, I thought a couple of plays that were kind of back-to-back right there were Kadarius Toney, who gets into the game. Now, this guy had a hamstring and ankle injury that had really messed him up. And so to even see him out there on the field and getting his reps, and Andy Reid lines him up wide left, and they're using these motions to move guys, and this guy is wide open in the Super Bowl on the left-hand side, and Mahomes just tosses it to him for a touchdown. And then a few plays later, defense gets to stop, and he's got that 65-yard punt return, which sets them up. That was, to me, quite the turning point of the game. But in the meantime, we did talk to Juju Smith-Schuster and asked him, did Bradbury hold you on that passing route on the left-hand side?
Oh, yes, 100%. My route was to strike in, strike back out. I mean, Bradbury's a good player, but I feel like at some day it's going to be a call's going to be called.
Well, what's he supposed to say? Nah, I didn't do it. We got lucky.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I got away with it. But you've been talking about where the Packers are right now. And by the way, it was my interpretation that Rodgers was going to do that darkness retreat or whatever a little bit later this month. Do you have information that he might be doing it as soon as this week?
Well, I guess somebody in the NFL or somebody in the NFL Network said that he's going in today. I thought that when he had talked about it with McAfee, that it sounded to me like it was imminent, like he was doing it like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then coming out and emerging after, to watch the Super Bowl and then go from there. But I guess people are writing about it that he was going into the deprivation today.
No, my sense was that he was going to be doing it later this month, and then after that, he would, after those 4 days, he would come out and then have to, make a hard decision on what he's going to do football-wise. So I do know one thing for sure: the LaFleur coaching staff is back in the house today.
Yeah,
I know that for sure. So they're back in the office, and that would mean now that those guys are back in the office, the Super Bowl's over with. This is when now you start making your decisions about what you're going to do with your career. the Chiefs made a lot of good decisions, guys that they've picked up in free agency, just like Kadarius Toney, who we talked about, Juju Smith-Schuster, who they picked up from the Steelers. Mm-hmm. And so we talked to Smith-Schuster after the game how he and Kadarius Toney went from the injury list. I mean, Kadarius Toney with an ankle and hamstring, and Juju Smith with that knee injury he suffered against the Bengals, to being stars in the Super Bowl.
But that boy got here. I don't know what the Giants was doing with KT, but bro, he's a dog. And Veach and Andy Reid, bro, they know how to pick and choose who to go get and fit for this puzzle of this team. The hard part with him is that trying to block for him, because he's like a rubber man. He just jukes so many times. And it's hard to block for him, but as you can see, that punt return set us up big to put points on the board. Man, I love playing for him, man. I love Andy Reid, man. Like, y'all don't know him personally, but that he's such a great dude, man. He's for the players. You know, he's not a coach that's gonna, drive you and abuse you. He's the type of coach that's gonna help you and put you in the best position possible for you to go out there and perform. Me and KT were hurt last game. All last week, we did not practice. He looked out for us. And our training staff, I want to give a big shout out to Julie, the trainer. She helped KT to get to where he was at today. Helped me get to where I'm at today. After the game, the AFC Championship, I couldn't walk. And I came out here because I believed in my staff and I believed in them to get me to where I'm at today. Getting there early, putting treatment in. I'm putting in 4 to 5 hours every day this past week in AZ just to make sure that we make this dream come true. And we did it.
An amazing turnaround for guys that were banged up. Let's do this. We'll step away. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back, talk more with Mike Clemens live out in Arizona. This is brought to you by our friends at Potawatomi Hotel Casino. If you're looking for a stay and play package, you're looking for terrific food inside the casino. If you're looking for bingo, which is back, they have all the games back open, not to mention the 360 bars cranking as well. And they are currently in the reconfiguring, if you will, for some sports betting. So a lot happening over at Potawatomi Hotel Casino. To find out everything, go to paysbig.com. That is paysbig.com. More with Mike coming up next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
It's the football postseason. You know what that means. You might have to up your grilling game. Nothing beats ScholzieFamilyBeef.com. When it's big game time, it's big grilling time for you, your family, your friends, and maybe even your fans. When your grilling game's on the line, you don't want to come up short. The third generation Scholzie family, they're going to get you the win every time. To be number one, you have to get the trophy cuts from ScholzieFamilyBeef.com. That's ScholzieFamilyBeef.com.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Mahomes in trouble, gets away. Mahomes racing with the bad ankle and all. Inside the 20, and he's taken down. Somehow, Patrick Mahomes.
A lot of soreness going through into halftime, and was able to move it around and kind of get taped up a little bit and go out there in that second half. And it didn't feel good, but I was going to leave it all out there, and I'm glad it was enough for the win.
Patrick Mahomes talking after the game. What a game he had. Wins the MVP, wins the Super Bowl MVP, caps off an incredible season. Just continues to amaze, and all before the age of 27. This portion of the program, Mike Clemens, brought to you by our friends at Dwayne's Cover It All up in Wausau, Wisconsin's best canvas, upholstery, boat cover provider. He does office furniture, gym equipment, you name it, he can do it. All you got to do is call 715-870-2119, 715-870-2119, and just follow him, Dwayne'sCoverItAll.com, or follow Dwayne's Cover It All over there on Facebook as well, and you can see a lot of the stuff that he does. Back with our guy, Mike Clemens. So, Mike, Patrick Mahomes, man, when he went down with that ankle, I thought, oh, boy, I wonder if that's going to change the dynamic of the second half of this ball game, and didn't seem to affect him too much.
Right. Even when he first had the injury, when he suffered in that game, and they talked about high ankle sprain, and anyone that's had it or anyone that you've talked to somebody that's had it, talk about how complex it is. Romeo Doubs had it. It took him 6 weeks to get back on the field as a rookie. So, everyone's wondering, how's this guy out there running around on the field like that? what kind of a horse doctor the Kansas City Chiefs have? Are they taking him out in the back of the barn with one of those 6-inch long needles?
Right.
Get him God knows what. But Patrick was asked after the game, did they shoot you up with a painkiller during the halftime?
I did not get a pain-killing shot, but we did some stuff to get it ready to go for that second half. I mean, you're in the Super Bowl. You can worry about getting it healthy in the offseason, so I just kind of fought through, and we were able to win the game.
Okay, so he didn't get the shot, but they must have taped him up with all kinds of special tape or something to that effect, I guess, for lack of a better term. But I'll tell you this, the offense it was much better in the second half of this game and was able to protect him against that vaunted pass rush. I mean, we talked about the pass rush coming into this thing, about how good the Eagles were in the trenches. They really didn't get to Mahomes.
I've had some players say that what they can do, because you actually can't get a shot for a high ankle sprain, but there's oral painkillers that they can take. Actually, Rogers talked to us about that once. But yeah, Patrick Mahomes, both these quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts ended up with a quarterback rating of 103.4. Threw for 300 yards in that game. So threw some beautiful passes over the middle, ones that kind of surprised even the guys that cover the Eagles, like the deep one to A.J. Brown, which was a beautiful pass, man. I didn't realize it was only 45 yards. It looked 65 yards when it happened. Such a nice rainbow touch. But Patrick Mahomes going 21 for 27, 182, very efficient, though, 131.8 quarterback rating, the 3 touchdowns. And one of the things that, we were talking to him about after the game was, how did the Kansas City offense just seem to – there was some tremendous play calling by Andy Reid to get some of those guys wide open, even on touchdowns. But how did they generally play better in the second half of this game?
I thought guys they embraced the moment. I think that's the biggest thing is that first half, we were playing. We were doing some good stuff, but I felt like guys were getting consumed by everything around us and not just going out there and playing and enjoying this game that we've played since we were little kids. Guys talked to the locker room, and we just said, let's leave it all out there. Let's leave it all out there for 30 minutes and see what happens at the end of the day. And I thought guys did that, and I think the biggest thing was the offensive line. I mean, the way they were able to protect me in that second half whenever we couldn't use those chips, we couldn't use that stuff to help them out against a great defensive line. That's the reason we won this game.
The defense, Mike, for the Chiefs was not, I highly touted coming into this game. They did, in my opinion, kind of like enough. And, they didn't really cause the fumble by Jalen Hurts. It just kind of slipped out of his hands. But to capitalize on it, be in the right place at the right time, there's something to be said for that.
So the Chiefs win the toss. They elect to defer. The Eagles are on the field. And on the very first play of the game, Nick Bolton, second-year kid that they drafted last year, is only 5'11", goes about 237. But he hit the ball carrier and just, you remember we saw Dick Butkus the other day in person?
Yep.
Yeah, he must have been smiling. That was a football hit. And then just 2 plays later, Justin Reed, the safety, puts a hard hit that maybe in other games the refs would have flagged for, a helmet hit or unnecessary. I thought, whoa, we got ourselves a game. And yet, Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense, they weathered through that opening drive. They go 11 plays, 75 yards, just like they have all year, just pounding and pounding and using that big offensive line. So, we talked to Bolton about that momentum shift in the middle of the second quarter. There's about 9 minutes left to play in the first half when they get the ball free and Bolton scoops and scores. It's all a blur, he says, but he said he actually dreamt doing that earlier this week.
To be honest, I really don't. The adrenaline of what's happening, I think I got him. My left hand might have hit it on the way through. I was trying to wrap him up. Yeah, man, I was really praying for a good bounce, man, and I got one. It popped up right in my hands, man, like a shortstop. I was able just to grab it and go. So, yeah, it was a pretty good bounce. Man, I actually had a dream about moving the sport and winning the Super Bowl, probably 2 nights ago. So, for it to happen, man, it's surreal, man. Again, man, I just thank God, man, thank my family, teammates, coaches, community, Chiefs Kingdom, man. All of them played a part in this game. One for sure.
Chris Jones, you go back to that AFC Championship game, he kind of took that thing over and almost single-handedly just dismantled that Cincinnati line and beat up Joe Burrow. And in this game, part of that defense, and you had got a chance to talk to Spagnuolo, earlier this week, Mike, and they just talked about just trying to kind of control Jalen Hurts and kind of keep him, from getting way outside and just running all over him and just trying to kind of hang on to the game rather than dominate the game.
Right. And in that conversation, Bill, with Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator of the Chiefs, I thought the one thing he said toward the very end was interesting. He said, I can't give up on the run on these guys. The Eagles will run and run and run. They will run all game. Just when you think they're going to start opening up and maybe start throwing, even if they're down by a touchdown or two. And as you can see what they did in the first half, where the Eagles had 44 plays to only the Kansas City's 20 plays in the first half. And so I asked Chris Jones, the big defensive tackle, 6'6", 325 pounds, 28 years old. I said, how did the Kansas City defense finally start getting the ball back for your guys and kept them in the game with the help from Spagnuolo?
A lot of players made some big plays, whether it's Nick Bolton scooping and scoring, whether it's the big hits tonight, man. Those guys came to play, and resilient. I've been saying it all year. We faced adversity a lot this year, and throughout that, we was able to build character along this team. It's a young team right now. We got like 4 starters on defense, you know what I mean? And you have that type of team, we're always counted out. But these guys continue to fight. Most importantly, you got to give Spags his credit, man. Spags made adjustments. Spags have to battle you guys all year, talking about us, unfortunately. But we're super grateful to have Spags in this organization.
They, after they got late in that ball game, I think is when they finally said, okay, now go. And they started pulling the pressure trigger on Jalen Hurts.
Exactly. And by the way, while I'm thinking of it offensively, the Chiefs offensive line did a pretty good job protecting Pat Holmes. He got hit 5 times, but wasn't sacked all night. He got hit once by Sue, and that was it. As for the Chiefs, once the Chiefs went out 35-27 when they got Sky Moore wide open on a 4-yard pass, I asked Frank Clark, the defensive or the linebacker, did you guys start blitzing Jalen Hurts then?
That's what happens. You know that. That's what happens. Usually, a team can play the game with us. They can play the game with us as long as they want. When the score is close, when they got a little breathing room, they want to play that little, the runaway game, the quick drop game. They know what they got on the defensive line coming at them. They know they got me on the edge. They know they can't block me. They know they got Chris. They know they can't block them. And, they got to deal with us. So at the end of the day, you're going to do everything. I've been dealing with that my whole career for the most part in Kansas City. I got Chris Jones and Frank Clark. At the end of the day, you getting the quarterbacks, they skilled, they geared to throw the ball out. They getting the ball out quick. O-lineman, they holding us. The schemes is getting slid. Kelsey slid to me the first pass rush of the game, and I was at defensive end. He didn't slide to Chris Jones. So at the end of the day, it's understanding the scheme, understanding what we can do as a defensive line to exploit the scheme, and understanding what we can do to limit the opposition. I feel like we did everything we need to do in the second half.
Then, Mike, we always talk about halftime adjustments, and they're not, you don't make as big a deal out of them really inside the locker rooms as we do outside. But because you had almost 30 minutes for that halftime show, it certainly seemed like they took that time, at least Kansas City did, to make some positive adjustments.
Bill, the Chiefs did 2 things. They got Patrick Mahomes' ankle feeling better, and then Frank Clark told us that he and Chris Jones had a sincere talk that they needed a halftime adjustment in attitude.
When you got guys like Travis Kelce, you come in the locker room and the first thing Travis tells, we need some energy. Like, where's your fight? Where's the fight? You always hear him harp on, fight for your life, the party, but that's a true thing. It's like, it's crazy. It's a song, but it's like, when you think about it, it's like, dang, what are you willing to fight for so you can party in Super Bowl, make it to the biggest party of the year? It's the question we had to really ask ourselves in the second half. Like, you come out kind of flat in the first half, things not going your way, it's just looking bad, but then you look at it like, dang, I'm sitting in the locker like, damn, what can I do to help my team? What can I do to put my team in the best position going forward? And I looked at Chris. Same thing I did the first Super Bowl. I said, we got to win this shit. We got to win this shit. Period. Like, I looked at my defensive line. I'm like, yo, we have to win this game. I'm like, we got too many damn people here to lose this game and for them to have to go home. Okay,
We got to win this game. Like, I got my peoples in the stands, my mama, all type of mamas, my girl, my kids, all type of people. All our family here, man. I'm like, I ain't about to watch, my family not about to watch me lose another Super Bowl. They're not about to watch me lose another Super Bowl. They watch me lose one Super Bowl and not about to watch me lose another Super Bowl. And that was the mentality we had going on, honestly, in the second half.
Man, that's a tough mentality and the adjustment that they certainly needed, and that's the way they came out and played. One more segment to go. Stay tuned. We got a lot more with Mike Clemens and the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
One of the worst things that you can hear, you have cancer. The worst is when you hear the words, your child has cancer. When a child is diagnosed with cancer, it changes their world. Sometimes they can't even do things that they really love, like playing soccer, riding a bike, going to prom, attending school. Children with cancer spend a lot of time away from others, time in the hospital, treatments, tired, nauseous, and they feel isolated. That's where Special Spaces Wisconsin steps in. They provide these children with a special space where they can not only sleep, but they can play, they can heal, they can spend time away from the challenges of their illness. It's a customized bedroom designed just for them. How about a princess castle or a pirate ship or a sports-themed bedroom? They transform that child's existing bedroom into a place that only he or she can imagine, a place for them just to be a kid. This effort is done with teams of dedicated volunteers and sponsors, just like our friends from Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin and all the community partners. If you'd like to find out more or to donate, go to specialspaces.org. That is specialspaces.org.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Yeah, listen, we were right there. I don't have to motivate these guys too much. They're very motivated to do well, and we were down by 10 points, so it's not that much. With the way our defense plays and shutting people down, and the way our offense plays by scoring points, so it's just a matter of straightening out a couple things. And the guys always believe; they never don't believe. They always think they're in the game.
Welcome back. Good to have you. Our guy Mike Clemens on the ground is still in Arizona and wrapping things up here on a Monday. And Mike, a couple of things that were noted coming out of the game. First of all, we talked about the ticky-tack kind of penalty, which we all understand. The halftime show, not great by any stretch of the imagination. And the fact that the field seemed to be slick, but it didn't seem to affect Kansas City a lot. It seemed like it was just some cleat adjustments for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I got to check back in with this later today. I'm wondering if the groundskeeper for Soldier Field is transferred out here to Arizona.
Right.
By the way, that thing looked, but yeah, Frank Clark, man, I love talking to this guy. I've heard a lot of good things about him. He's unfiltered, because you ask him the other players, even the Eagles, the losing team. Well, both teams had to play on that field. But I asked Frank Clark, was the field as slippery at State Farm Stadium as it looked?
Yeah, it did. I feel like the field position the field was kind of terrible, honestly. It looked like they laid strips down or something like that to cover up the grass or what it had before. But, we had this problem in Arizona before. You know what I mean? A lot of these stadiums, they try to do new tactics and stuff with the grass, or they try to do new things. I've been playing football since I was 7. The best grass I've ever played on was grass that's naturally there. The best grass I ever played on was grass that doesn't move, that doesn't get shifted and sent inside and outside and all that extra stuff. But, at the end of the day, it was the field that we were given. It was the field that, we were blessed to compete on. And, you got to make adjustments. This is a game of adjustments. At the end of the day, it's like 4 dudes changed their cleats at halftime, or had cleats being brung out to them, or had taped, or was doing something, trying to figure it out. Footing, I think I before it plays, I start just digging in before the play, just to get some footing, because I was slipping. When you get on that paint, it's slippery, you know what I mean? But bad field or not, you got to play football. So.
Mike, that was one of the stories, obviously. And then the other one, which we saw on opening night, was, Mama Kelsey and the 2 Kelsey brothers going at it against one another. That was one of the biggest stories of the game as well. The storylines to follow, obviously.
Maybe some guys retiring too. Chad Henne, the backup quarterback for the Chiefs, announced after the game at age 37 he's going to retire. Barry Rubin, who's been with Andy Reid, they came up together with the Packers in the 90s. He's their strength and conditioning coach. Andy Reid loves him, but he retired last night at the age of 65. You got to wonder if Jason Kelsey, the center for the Eagles, played his last game against his brother and losing the Super Bowl.
I hadn't quite let the emotion get to me yet. I'm sure we'll have a more emotional interaction. Still frustrated at that point.
There's nothing you can really say to a loved one in a situation like that. You joke around all the time and say that you want to be your brother in the biggest stage ever, but it's a weird feeling.
Mike, by the way, many people are telling me now that Aaron Rodgers will be on the McAfee show tomorrow, just before he enters the darkness retreat.
Okay, good to know.
So we'll all be.
Can you believe we're actually talking about this stuff?
I know.
I
know. I get it. I get it.
I got Patrick Mahomes there in front of me. He won back-to-back MVPs, regular season and the Super Bowl. First time that's been done since Kurt Warner in 1999. My quarterback, he's going to a dark room for 4 days.
Mike, great stuff. We'll talk about it soon. Get home safe, and we'll talk to you. Okay.
Thank you, Billy.
Thanks, pal. There you go. That'll do it. Time for us to get out of here. We'll be back at it again tomorrow. Until